Tonight on 8.5-bit. Too many games that I can't pick 3 things. Welcome, friends of all design. This is episode 295 of 8.5-bit. I'm your host, Paul, and joining me are my good friends, James and Sam.
Hi.
And the games hinted at in tonight's intro were, of course, Mario Golf, Chicory, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, Phantom Abyss. I'm skipping some of them. Death's Door, Skyward Sword. That's most of the big ones, and that's only about a quarter of the list.
It's been a game playing time.
So we have missed at least one episode, kind of jumping around, mostly because there was another COVID lockdown around here, and I haven't enjoyed doing the remote records. I like to be here, so you can be bored while I speak, and then Pokemon comes up, you can watch me
scribble stuff while we talk about things.
Well, these days I have to Photoshop because I'm using the
and
laptop.
I get to fight your advances from under the table.
It's true. You're much worse at fighting off the remote robot I set up at your house.
Things too efficient.
Be gone, Grabby. Anyway, yes. How are you two going generally?
Pretty good. Yeah.
Did you enjoy our last lockdown?
It was the same as always for me. Nothing in my life has changed this entire year, like last year. That's it. This is my life now. Just be at home, do some work.
Sometimes I have to remember to take a mask.
Yeah.
I
just send Amy to do things.
Oh.
I just go, hey, we need stuff from the shops. Why didn't you go get them?
Australia's so insulated that it really is like, oh god, I have to carry a small mask with me sometimes.
Like, the biggest impact that I ever have is when we can't run D&D.
Yeah, I think
that's it. That's the whole.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm good.
I'm double AstraZeneca now.
I'm a double Pfizer boy.
Nice. Yeah. You got yours.
I really lucked out.
Me.
Yeah, it was really weird how
James
I got mine.
lucky.
Yeah, I just applied for like registering my interest, and then I got one.
The spare jab.
I have a feeling it may have actually been there. Like maybe at that time there was some oversupply.
Well, you did it pretty much the night that they announced the new Pfizer policy. So you just like jumped on there,
and then because you had,
then you got it like the next day, and then another friend of ours got it like the day after. And I said to the wife, "Look, just register."
Yeah.
Everyone else has got it instantly. She has heard nothing back.
Yeah.
Nobody she knows has heard anything back. Like I got Astra because I'm diabetic and so I'm a high risk factor. So I got that ages ago, and you got yours first and second in between me because I had 3 months wait in between. Yeah. But, now I'm immortal. That's how I
think there was a period of time where demand was lower than supply, even though our supply was kind of trash. And that's when a lot of people that weren't kind of in the priority got hit with it.
What is your, like, maybe not punch in the face level, but just, like, want to give them, a little pinch level every time someone says that they've got, like, really good 5G reception now afterwards? Like,
I mean, I was just about to make that comment.
There are a lot of videos of people pretending to be magnetic now.
Oh, I'm sure Angeline does not watch this show, my mother-in-law.
This is how we find out.
Hi, Angeline. Hey, Turn off for the next 30 seconds.
The other day, she did come down, and it's like, you got Pfizer, didn't you? Yeah, I got Pfizer. And she had a spoon.
How does this stuff spread?
And she's like, you probably had this, you probably had it too long, but I'm going to just try. And she just, put the thing on me to see whether or not it was going to stick to me.
Where were those Microsoft chips?
You're a little sticky.
Well, I said that, I would imagine it's, one of the side effects, maybe you have clammy skin. Potentially that would make
I don't even think that's the I think it's just that sometimes human skin is sticky.
Occasionally you can stick a spoon to your skin.
I did. There was a very funny video of someone that was very deep into it, and they was going, "Oh, look, it sticks." And someone's just like, "Do it with baby powder." It's like, "Oh, of course I will." And it falls straight off. Yeah. It's like, I would like to retract a few things I said, but guys, I don't even know the guy's name.
Baby powder is the vaccine for the vaccine.
Yes. It's like, at least that guy had the honesty to just realize he'd been wrong the whole time.
They didn't go into, okay, clearly this is big powder. Big
baby powder. With its anti-magnet hole. Anyway, we should probably start heading towards a video game direction, just because there's so much to talk about. Now, last episode was our E3 episode, so we kind of skipped around a bunch of stuff. And I think because it's hard to structure an episode like today, because there's a lot that's happened. And actually, I'm not going to do what I was going to do because it's jumping too many things. Let's go at some hardware announcements that we had.
Yeah.
So, Nintendo did not show the new rumored Switch Pro at E3, and everyone was like only shocked because we listened to rumors. If we look at Nintendo's history, they never do. It's like there's once. I think they showed one of the 3DSs at E3 once. Every other time,
all that hardware's been like November-ish, just before November.
But now they have revealed it, the new Switcheth. And it is not the Switch Pro as long rumored and very, very strongly rumored with strong details that we all believed because we stupidly read articles. It has one of the things that was first rumored, which is an OLED screen, which is a little bit bigger. I mean, not, substantially bigger. I think it's about 0.8 of an inch bigger.
Yeah, which it's
the Switch it's made me realize how big the bezel is on the Switch.
Yeah. Because now when I look at my Switch, I think, that bezel is going to be it's quite big. Yeah.
The hardware, nothing else really is changing other than the fact they've improved the kickstand. And I assume they improved the kickstand because they had to make a new case for the new bezel. And why not? When you're doing
the kickstand is a bit rubbish.
Yeah, it's just a little bit of other plastic. You're not breaking the bank on that one. Other than that, the guts are all the same. So it's a larger screen, smaller
better
bezel.
audio, but that might just be a case thing.
They just say better audio. They had to source some slightly different speakers because all they say is it's better.
Yeah.
There's no stat on why it's
and I've never really thought the audio on the Switch is bad. It's fine.
Look, if I need, like most mobile things, a lot of the time my Switch is played with audio off.
Or headphones. Yeah.
Often it has it on just like mildly. And if I really need to pay attention to audio, as you just said then, it's headphones because it's a mobile device.
So of course they finally added Bluetooth, right?
As I say, the guts are exactly the same. So no, I mean the thing that the rumor that made me excited was the one that was going to have DLSS.
That was a bit that was getting everyone excited.
I never expected that Nintendo was going to go crazy on hardware, but when it was like, hey, look, the new chip has basically free upscaling in it. It's like Nintendo could do that, and it would work with their art style extremely well. So. Yeah, you can speculate all you want, and we'll do that right now. Yeah. My speculation is that they were planning some bigger things, and then all the hardware shortages made them go, well, we've just got the screens, so we'll just do the screens instead.
That's my feeling.
Pretty much. Yeah.
The new dock has an Ethernet port.
Instead of the USB,
Instead of a USB port. So I bet anything that just plugs into the USB header on that board, because it's exactly the same inside.
Probably.
Yeah. So again, no hardware changes. So you'll get an Ethernet port and you lose a USB port. And honestly, the USB port's more flexible. You could get a $20 Ethernet to a USB to Ethernet adapter, and would have done the same thing.
But
you would have lost a port.
We'll still be able to use the old dock anyway.
Yes. It's just a USB.
Supposedly they've rounded off a lot of the edges on the new dock, so it doesn't scratch the screen.
Yeah,
okay.
They
so
made it
nice.
a little bit less scratchy. Okay. So I guess So I would say my thing. I was disappointed, but I'm only really disappointed because I believed rumors, and that was stupid.
It was your own fault.
It's my own fault. Nintendo never said anything. They did once say that they were looking at a Switch Pro, but they didn't know what that would even be. And I believe that when they say that. So slight disappointment. I'm not buying one because there's other hardware I prioritize over it. You two have both pre-ordered, I assume.
I have pre-ordered, but there have been developments, as I'm sure we'll get to soon, which may see that money be directed somewhere else.
I am still getting it because 100% of my time on Switch is handheld, and that screen upgrade is... I can justify it.
I almost would go there because I have a launch Switch. Do you still have a launch?
Yes.
Yeah, I've got a launch.
And since the launch, there's better batteries, and it had a mild improvement, and it's just...
But you want to keep the old one for
my homebrew machine.
Yeah. You don't want to trade that one in.
It, but we'll see if I ever actually get around to homebrewing.
The other announcement that's coming, maybe you don't need that anymore.
That's right, the Playdate. Actually, on that, the Playdate, I'm sure we spoke about... Did we speak about the Playdate?
Yeah,
because we spoke about the pen holder. Which is really where we're going. But it should go up for pre-sale in the next 2 weeks.
Cool.
So, and Australia is confirmed as a launching territory.
The important part.
Perfect.
Yes. Which is lacking from the next announcement.
Yes. But side note, part of me is slightly convinced that the reason they've done the OLED upgrade before they've done a Pro is because whoever is in charge of naming Nintendo consoles
was sick.
Just really wants a Switch Pro LED. They've written that on a whiteboard and they've circled it, and anything that goes against that cannot be done.
Okay, so because my feeling on the Switch Pro is that it's never happening, that there'll just be a Switch successor will be the next announcement, and they're not going to bother with a Pro at all. But now that you
Pro LED,
shit, I'm kind of
It's the ProLED.
That's so Nintendo. Although it might be too good. It may be too good. Okay, but let's go on to today's big announcement, which is written on the board behind me for the 3 YouTube video viewers, which is Valve has announced the Switch Pro. This was something we haven't covered on the show, I believe. It was on the notes a few times. There was the rumored Steam Pal, it was called, the amazing name, which was that...
It has a much better name now.
Yeah, fuck you. Jesus Christ, James, how could you?
Wait,
anyway.
There is at least one better name I've seen that it could be.
There is... So it was rumored that Valve was working on a handheld PC, which would run Steam, obviously, and that has come to be true. It is the Steam Deck.
Steam Deck.
Yeah.
Bah.
I think it's a good name.
It's fine. It's good, but Steam Pal, come on. I mean, less marketable, but I like it more. Look, I know it's worse. I just like it more. So they've made a Switch.
Yeah.
In most of the ways that count, it's similar in size. It's similar in sort of your base functions of it.
It's quite a bit bigger.
I thought it was a 7-inch screen.
I mean, like the actual size of the unit.
Oh,
like,
okay. Yeah, it's a bit chunky.
It's a chunky.
Yeah, it's a
unit.
chunky.
It's a chunky
It's
beast.
not massive, but
It doesn't have removable controllers. Those controllers are full-sized, however. So you've got a full-size thumbstick on there. And it's a slightly odd layout where it's the D-pad and the buttons are on the edge and then the sticks are inside. And then weirdly, when I was like looking at other controllers like closeness to the edge, that's actually pretty sad how far they are away.
The reports I read were like, it did seem a bit weird, but once you started using it
looks like it's dropping off the edge.
Yeah, it's so close to the edge.
But apparently it feels nice.
I mean, it is a wait and see, touch yourself thing, but I'm not going to discount because it's different. That's cool. But it also has like sort of the Steam Pro control or Steam controller. It's got sort of haptic touchback feed pads on either side, which can be used in multiple ways. It's got back triggers. Pretty fancy.
Got 2 back triggers, I think.
Yep. Hardware-wise, power's put probably a little bit more powerful than a base PS4, which for a handheld seems pretty fucking powerful.
Well, the comparisons, the Digital Foundry comparison was actually to the Xbox Series S. The S.
But it comes a little bit short under that in 2 ways. Like fewer cores and stuff like that.
But the main difference being the physical power was kind of there, but obviously the power draw would limit what it can do.
Because it's still not a console. It's a PC, which means you do have more overhead from the OS typically. It's running a custom Linux build. You can install Windows on it though because it is a PC.
Completely open.
You can put SteamOS on that thing if you want to.
Yes, exactly.
You can go get SteamOS.
Which made me kind of excited for this thing potentially could be a little workhorse as well.
It could potentially do a bunch of things, especially since, unlike Nintendo, Valve has decided to follow the standards of USB-C, which means whilst they are going to sell a dock, they are not going to have their dock that special that other docks brick it. Yep. It's just going to be, do you use USB-C to video?
USB-C port.
Plug it in.
Yeah.
Any of your peripherals, just plug it in. It's a fucking computer. Just do your computer stuff on it. They've sort of made a commitment that their goal is to get every single Windows game playable on it.
Yeah, I think they purchased some virtualization software layer, like Wine kind of thing for Linux. I can't remember the name of it.
Proton stuff.
Proton, I think.
Do they purchase that?
I think they might have purchased it. Maybe I could be wrong
I don't know. I'm not very...
or partnered with or something. They've done something with them to basically... They're trying to soup it up
from
to get
what I
the
hear,
support.
It's very good at the moment, with the biggest exception being games with DRM that... you have like rootkicks and shit with Windows, like it just doesn't work when you're emulating it, basically, which makes sense.
But of course, all this is moot because you can just put Windows on it.
You can just put Windows on it, but then you'll also have a power loss. They showed Jedi Fallen Order running on it, looked nice. And they're basically relatively honest, like, hey, you run this relatively graphically intensive game. If you run it at 60, you'll get 60 frames a second. You'll get 2 hours battery life. If you run at 30, you'll get 4 hours. So, like a PC, you can set things where you want and tinker with it.
I imagine something like this, a lot of the time I'm in bed or something and I've got it plugged in. Like the actual use case for me...
5-meter USB-C cable.
The actual use case for me with mobile stuff is actually normally I've got a power supply.
I don't think I ever have mine plugged in. I think I play it until it runs out of battery, and that's the indicator that it's time for Paul to stop playing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what I do.
And then I go drop it on a dock and do something else.
It forces me to actually not play forever.
But it is actually like your assumption that everyone will be into power is like, but people are different, aren't we?
I know a lot of people who do it with their phones, like just have like a 10-meter cable for their phone so that they never lose battery. If you stuff like that.
That's what I never get about people that use phone as a gaming device. But it's my phone. If I play much time gaming on it, it will break as my phone. But those, I guess, people that do plug it into power more often than I do,
or carry around power bricks, or
super interesting. It's one of those things. It's apparently got very good pre-orders so far. It's not launching in Australia this year. It's launching US, UK,
that is the worry.
US, Canada, UK, and EU.
The worry for us is, well, you look at like index support and how that's gone in Australia, and if this follows suit, I will probably be ordering one via a service from the US.
Gabe lives in New Zealand these days. Come on.
The internet has gone a little nuts on, oh my god, the Switch is dead.
The Switch is dead.
With this whole announcement.
I'm sorry to tell you, PC Master Race, but your existence is part of the reason why that will never be true.
But also, like, we should all be well aware at this point that Valve handles stuff like this, much like Google handles stuff like this. They are trying an idea. If it doesn't sell, they will stop.
But also to a certain level, Valve also like that. Like
I think they're putting more into this.
I know with the controller, for instance, part of the reason why that died is because they got sued.
Yes.
And shit like that. So that one, the Steam Link, like sort of, it didn't take off, but then they also built that functionality into other devices.
It evolved. They
went from hardware to software.
And so I wouldn't be surprised with this thing if it be a similar thing. If it was dropped, but the idea of it just becomes, because in their interviews they said this is a completely open thing. They almost invited other manufacturers to go look.
It's a testing ground.
Go make your own.
Which made me a little cringe when they did it. Like, don't Steam Machine again. Don't Steam Machine again. But kind of, it's not a worry, but it's part of where I think it's both good and bad. That you look at like Steam controller support, and it's all community submitted profiles and everything. And so I assume this thing's going to have a lot of like, this profile runs best on your thing, and so it's going to be a bit of a mash, especially at first, and for older things that don't necessarily directly support it. People going like, oh yeah, download this. This is the best profile for that, and Valve isn't officially doing anything. The community's running most of it, and that can be both good and bad because there's a lot of elitism in the community of what to prioritize.
A lot of developers will make their official profile.
Yeah.
So what I'd like
if it's successful, if it's notable,
So it'd be nice if it was something like they just have I download Destiny or whatever, and it's like, here is this settings profile of like to have this run at a rate we deem acceptable.
And as time goes on, I assume people will, because it's not a console. So the games are not optimized for it, but I kind of assume that if it's a success, they will.
Yeah,
like people will put a little thing, Steam Deck optimized on their page. And people go, "Yep, that's good." Because what it does for me is, even though I was joking about the people when you were saying, Switch dead, for me, almost completely true, because my Switch
all the indies
is it's a 98% indie machine,
which we already buy twice.
Half the time I buy the game twice because it's like I have it or it's on Game Pass, and there's just nothing technically stopping you putting Game Pass on this thing, other than you have to put Windows on it.
I didn't think about that. But
they've implied you may not have to.
Well, that'll be they've said that it will just support Epic and GOG, but I don't think they've said that they can do Game Pass.
They're working on other storefronts.
The thing is,
implication there, but
if Microsoft went on board with them, they'd kind of be crazy not to, because other than resources and everything, it's like, another platform where we can just tell people to subscribe to us and give us a monthly fee.
Oh yeah. Microsoft wouldn't.
Should we support it or not? And then like my humble subscription suddenly gains more value to me again, because so often I get thinking like,
I'll never play this. It's just
that looks good, but there's a Switch version, and I know I spend most of my time playing mobile these days. I guess I'll pony up the cash eventually on the Switch.
Because since Roger's come along, like I've barely touched my PC for any kind of gaming because of baby. So for me, I'm really excited. Like, this is something right now. Most of the gaming I can get is on Switch. That's just the most parent-friendly device out there. So being able to bring that PC experience over to a parent-friendly format again I'm very excited for.
So the thing I guess we have not covered, if this is all new to you, which for some of you will be, the price. The price is in USD is $50 more than the new Switch. Which is running on like 10-year-old phone hardware with an OLED
price.
And then the comments from Gabe and everything was that price was a super important thing to them, and they're right, because like you look at everything else they've done, which has been more enthusiast based, like the Index, which is a fantastic piece of hardware, which is $1,500 on top of an expensive
it's
machine.
too enthusiast for me.
Yeah,
and I'm a VR developer.
Yeah, we like the Quest 2. Its rise in market space and everything and popularity over its small thing is its price point and its quality just blows everything out of the water. It doesn't compare. You get the Master Race going, oh, but it doesn't have a list of high-end VR stuff, and everyone goes, yeah, but it was $300.
It costs so much less, and I don't have to set it up.
Yeah,
put anything in my walls.
Yeah, I walk over to Grandma's. I go, well, here you go, Grandma. It's done.
Yeah,
it's like you can't compete. So I think it's nice to see that Valve has sort of recognized that as well.
And the only difference between the different tiers,
because there's a few different ones.
Yeah, that is the storage. Which the thing is upgradable anyway, but I mean it is the super fast storage in there, so there is some benefit of putting stuff on.
Micro SDs are goddamn cheap nowadays anyway.
But that's and I think the very top tier one, I believe there's a fancy keyboard,
and it's got special anti-glare glass.
Oh, anti-glare glass because you can't put a screen protector on something.
I don't know. But some people don't want to. I guess.
Yeah, I haven't put a screen protector or anything in like a decade.
If it's a touch screen,
yes,
it is a touch screen.
It is.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that was one of the... Because it's kind of crazy when you think about it, because it's at that price. It's so much more powerful than the Switch. It's got the two capacitive...
There's a lot more tech going on.
Yeah, there's so much more going on. And then it's like... I thought because they had the two touchpads that they were going to drop the touch screen. But I guess, money-wise, it's not that big of a thing these days. I mean, that's how they manufacture... Those screens at 7 inches are manufactured to be that. So they might have had to ask them to remove it.
Don't be touchscreen, please.
Costs more.
Yeah.
So it's like, so you've actually got 3 touch inputs... And actually, isn't there some weird, sensor thing on the side anyway?
I think you can detect when your fingers are on the buttons but not pressing. I think it's got some kind of sensor.
Capacitive.
Yeah. Some of the sort of haptic feedback stuff that they were doing with the Steam controller, it comes out to a really, really, really appealing package.
Yeah. And if you set all that up nicely, it can play really good too. Yeah. Even for mouse-based games.
And in a world where getting a graphics card is just a pot of luck sometimes these days. You're like, well, I could get something that I can just take on the go and totally... I can just be changed to a different kind of gamer. Still play the same games, but just in a different format. Well, I can plug it into stuff, but it's only going to be running...
Yeah.
It's specking at 720 most of the time, so you're not running 4K. But I honestly don't think it matters to most people.
Yeah, well, I mean, even just playing Zelda on the TV today...
Oh, don't jump the gun here.
Yeah, but I realise that running 720 on my 4K TV... I don't care that much.
Is it only 720?
Sorry?
Is it only 720?
Even while docked.
I don't know. I'm asking. I don't know.
I thought it was.
I think it is.
We don't know, so I'll do that as we go. But either way, it may only be 1080 still. It's still not 4K.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Well, let's assume it's 1080.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's not 4K.
Yeah. It's okay. I'm alright with that. I think I've kind of reached a point now with where technology has gone with gaming. I'm willing to compromise some of the top end tier.
Yeah, the only thing I have
for things like portability
4K for is for TV and movies.
Yeah,
games I don't care.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
for the most part,
and we're preempting other conversations tonight as well. But Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart
does look fantastic.
Yeah. Sorry, I'll take it back. Skyward Sword
runs at 1080 60. Yeah. But that game runs at 30 4K, and I hated it. And I turned it down to performance mode with ray tracing, which is 1080 at 60. And I kind of can't really tell that I've lost resolution, and it looks great. So fuck resolution. I don't care. And I had someone else come around, and they were testing the game, and we were flicking between the modes. And they straight up had them the wrong way around. So, I prefer this one. I prefer the better looking version, this one. I'm like, no, that's the performance mode.
Surely the output of the Steam Deck can be whatever resolution you want.
Yeah.
So
I think they said that it can support 4K.
Yeah.
But
you wouldn't run it at 4K.
Settings around.
Yeah.
It's how many games can you run at 4K from that hardware.
I would be curious, that hardware with a power supply plugged into a TV, what it could do. I'd be curious about that.
You'll be looking at performance similar to the S.
Yeah.
Probably a little bit under, but close. You'll certainly be able to run older stuff there. But yeah, we'll see how we actually go with it. But either way, for what I play most of the time, I think it'll do fucking great.
Yeah.
So many indie games.
Damn straight.
So many games I already own. That's the thing. My Steam library is huge, not huge, but pretty huge. You're gonna look at your number now, aren't you?
Yeah, I was thinking about it, but I think it's a. Actually, I don't know because the GOG number includes everything.
Yeah.
I know the GOG one's over 4,000, but
What are you at?
I don't know. Where's the list?
Because I think I'm
all games.
I imagine close
See,
to
I'm only
1,000.
I'm only 2,900.
See,
Oh, yeah, only. Okay.
I think I'm maybe around.
Can you go to
2,000
that
or so.
Steam database site that tells you the value of your library and the value you've gotten from it, from how many hours you've played?
Oh, but my numbers are all over the place. There's what was that called? I'll just Google. I'm sure I can
You
get it.
didn't have to do it live on show, but
Well, why not?
it's interesting to look
This
at.
is content. and I look, but the thing here at the beginning, do remember that I am incredibly heavy quotes here. I am a games journalist, so I get sent a lot of stuff. Also, I'm addicted to bundle sites, so
Yeah, all the really shitty ones, hey?
yeah.
There's like 50 cents for 100 games.
Yeah, they don't quite go that bad anymore. Or at least I've got over going to those ones. But yeah, it has been a rough. Yeah, I did not buy full price all my games.
It'd be interesting if this could
Interesting
actually
if true.
figure that out and it could tell you how much you've saved.
How much I've actually done. Oh, okay. Some of my accounts.
Yeah,
on
set to
record.
private.
Okay, never mind.
Maybe try mine.
But
I think
It's
mine's
interesting stats you can get from it.
well, it should say the overall cost.
there you go.
My account is valued between $11,000 and $39,000. I have not spent $39,000 on my account. The average price is $17.69, which is wrong. 10 cents is closer to the average price, Paul said. But I mean, I still buy stuff on Steam, so that's it. Okay, any more thoughts
Steam
on
Deck?
the Valve Switch Pro?
Valve Switch Pro.
Yes.
I think it's a neat idea.
I hope the
Whenever it
rollout
is we
goes
get
good.
it.
Yeah, I think
My brother has put money down for it, so
Yeah.
I will be able to get some feedback.
I feel even if it is dumped, it doesn't matter. It's going to be a cool piece of
The
tech.
best
that-
hope we can have is that it does the same as the Steam Link, and then we can buy it for $5.
That would be.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the telling thing so far is reading Gabe talk about it, and their plan is to sell millions of them.
Yeah.
It's like this is different to our standard rolls out. We want to make this a mainstream success, hence the price. And they're really pushing. They want to try and push it for. I guess the thing is also, it's like, what is Valve marketing? What does that look like? I've never seen any. Are we going to see some now? Is it going to? Because that's the big thing. It's like you can only get so far with the PC Master Race. Because one thing, console owners fucking hate the snobbish. But he's like, oh, you don't play it properly. Oh, you play it at 30 frames. That's not even the real game. You must anyway. So they immediately turns people off when people talk about this good PC they can
I
get.
guess does a 12-year-old want it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
mine will. But he's 11 years off that. Okay, let's talk about some video games. Okay, let's jump into this with. Let's start with a game that two of us. Let's just start. Let's start with Chicory. Why not?
Right.
I reckon we can hit Chicory pretty quickly.
Yeah, nice and fast.
Sam and I has played it. I thought you played it too. You bought it at least.
I bought it,
it's not on
but
your
like
list.
I said, I do very rarely get in front of my computer anymore. So.
Okay, so Chicory is by the developer that made Wonder Song, which is an amazing, beautiful game that I love very much. Also involves the composer from Celeste and some of the crew from Night in the Woods. It's kind of an indie all-stars team that made this game about playing a dog called... What's your dog called, Sam?
I can't remember what I called my dog.
So at the beginning of the game, it asks what your favorite food is. You enter it, and that is the name of your
I
dog.
can't.
Guess what my dog's
I think I just
called?
put chips.
Chips is good. Guess James.
What's Paul's favorite food?
It's a beverage.
Pepsi?
It's called Pepsi Max. Hi, Pepsi Max. Hi, Pepsi Max. Anyway.
So you've accidentally put yourself into a walking advertisement.
I love it. It's so fun. But it's also just, it hits the tone immediately as well. So you are in a world where there is a wielder of the brush who has coloured everything, and you are their janitor. And suddenly all the colour is wiped out of the world, and you find the brush abandoned, and you're like, well, I'll pick this up and be helpful. And off you go. And you walk around with Wasad, and you can use the mouse to paint the world.
And the world's like a colouring book.
It is very much a colouring book.
Yeah.
And it is it's like a Zelda with very, very little anything that could be called combat. So it still has puzzles. Normally they're relatively straightforward, but this game, I haven't seen how short it can be played, but I think this game's hour range is somewhere between, say, 6 hours and 300 hours.
Well, because you're painting every single screen.
Yeah, because you just be like, you know what? I don't want to do the thing I need to do. I'm just going to paint things.
I'm just going to go see who wants to be my friend.
I'm going to paint things and make friends, and then I'm going to paint the friends.
I'm going to go to an art school, and they want me to paint what I think frustration looks like, and I'm going to paint that. Sorry, I'm just getting lots of messages. I'm like, are any of these important? And it doesn't seem so, just in case my baby was in trouble or something. So it's a lovely game that deals with some relatively heavy issues as well, as you might expect from the background of the people involved. But generally, it's very cheerful, and you do walk around, and you will colour in every screen, and it does great things. Everywhere there's little secrets, there's little treasure chests everywhere. They have clothing in it that you can dress up, but also new brushes. So whilst you start the game, and each area you're in only gives you 4 colours to paint with, and they're sort of random to that area, you can then get, say, different patterns that you can paint with and different types of strokes. And eventually, spoiler here, you can just get a fill bucket. And you just go...
Boop. Which is hilariously useful for solving puzzles.
Yes! It's like...
Because it shows you where the path is.
It actually is like practical as well as like, oh, I'm just going to get some base paint on this area. And I'm like, well, you know, there's little levels in this scene, so I'm going to paint each level a different color so I can easily discern it.
Fill an area, and then somewhere you didn't expect to fills up as well. Like, wait, they're joined? Okay.
Yeah. And then you get to then you get the map, you bring up the map, and you see all the coloring you've done of the world on the map. Then you look at the area you started in, where you just like some splashes of color everywhere.
You got to go back and fix that.
Well, I got to go back and repaint that area of the world. I don't think it's not a game. If you want to get through and rush through this game, probably not going to get... Like, you'll still probably have an okay time, but it's not going to land with you. Also, if you can't take your time with it, like if you have to play short PlayStation... When I've tried to play it shortly, I've done nothing. I've just got through like 3 screens of just like, oh, I just did a doodle here and painted in that tree purple. I thought it was pretty cool purple, that tree. Yeah, moving on. It's a real... You can play 2-player. Second person just has a separate brush.
Oh, okay.
Two of you painting at once. Why not? And also, since painting is the interaction, painting is also how you solve puzzles and do other things in the world. I am going to take off my watch because it vibrates every time someone sends me a message, and it's driving me insane. There's actually a snooze button. I could have just pushed that.
Take it off easier.
It's the floor's watch now. Did you have any other particular thoughts on Chicory?
No, I just love it. I absolutely love it.
It's delightful. It's got a wonderful soundtrack.
Oh, some of the like, what I would term as boss fights. I'm glad they're not really difficult, because just chill and listen to the music in them is fantastic.
So kind of when you get to the boss fights in it, and they, especially when you first hit it, it's like it takes a surprisingly dark turn. It's like, whoa, suddenly this is a combat, and there's a screaming face at me. Like, what the hell? I thought it was a happy coloring book. Now I believe, as you say, they are not that difficult. I believe that like if you keep failing at it, it kind of just lets you go past.
Yeah.
It's like it's
pretty sure
it's
it
like
does.
This is not what this game is about. Like just
have a good time. You
go
win.
On.
Gold
It's a
star,
coloring
keep painting.
book. And coloring books, like, and it is kind of interesting because as they give you more tools to paint with, it's like at first I'm just like, grass green, this purple, that brown, good Paul. It's like, oh wait, I can do textures now. I don't have to just do a solid color for something. You start being a little more interesting with how you're using the paint, and it's like it's partly a painting tool as well. Quite a restricted one, but restricted in interesting ways. It's like your palette is limited, but they give you more and more tools as you go along. And it's all about kind of the pressures of being an artist and the expectations put on you. So it's like you've just had this thrust upon you, and you've picked it up, and everyone thinks you're great. And like your sister has been studying to be an artist her whole life. She's like, oh, did you want to be the wielder? It's like, nah, don't want to do that. That's too much pressure. But other people hate you because you've got all this attention when you haven't put in the work to get there. It's happy, but it's also honest, and it's just a delight. The delight. That's what we'll call it.
Yeah.
Chicory, the delightful game. Okay, let's talk about another game. James, what do you play? Okay, because I'm just trying to pick one that multiple people have played. Yeah, on last week, we dropped the new old Zelda game onto the Nintendo Switch. Legend of Zelda, the Skyward Sword. Now,
which I didn't add to my list, but I should have.
Oh, good. So we're all on board. Okay, how much did you play of the original?
I played maybe 4 or 5 hours of it.
Most of it.
Okay, I dropped off pretty early on it. I can't remember it anymore.
That's a good way to get into the remake.
I remember very little of it.
I remembered hating it because it was so boring. Just every 2 steps you take, something would interrupt you again, and you never got to play the game. And I don't remember what it feels like because none of that seems to be in the game anymore.
Yeah.
I just started the game, and in fact, as far as Zeldas go, it's one of the fastest to get going.
Yeah, I'd say maybe half an hour or so.
Yeah, it's like, half an hour or so you are just on the quest.
They looked at the list of all the things people hated it, and then they fixed all of them.
Yeah. It's weird. Like, some of the things, like, some of them were just bad design. Some of them just were mind-boggling. Like, the fact that, so every time you pick up an item for the first time in Zelda, it gives you a long item description. It gets kind of a bit boring, especially when it's like, this is worth 1 rupee. This is worth 5 rupees. It's like, yeah, I get it. They're worth, like, you don't have to tell me. But in the original game, every time you reloaded, it would tell you them again every time you picked up a new thing, which was just like, why? Why would this ever exist? Like, surely before you released it, somebody played it, and they said, this is stupid. Maybe they only played it in a single setting, and so never noticed. But that seems like a bug. Like, why would that ever happen? So that's gone. It seems to... I'm not sure, have they cut some of the content from the intro?
I don't think so. I think it just feels faster.
It just feels way faster. There's a few oddities. So now they've added... to have added button control for everything. It's not motion controlled. You can motion control. So the right stick is the movement of the sword, which for me so far...
I actually really like it.
Feels real good.
Yeah,
works pretty well.
Because you're fighting things where you need the direction, it feels really satisfying. There's something really tactile about that. Rather than me just do horizontal slash versus doing vertical slash, actually doing the flick, it feels real good.
It feels pretty good.
Yeah.
I haven't consistently nailed the spin attack yet. I don't know about you guys.
The left, right, left.
Yeah, left, right, left. Yeah.
The looking around with the camera is a bit 50% weird.
50% of the time. Yeah, so it's got free camera now, which the original game didn't.
You have to hold down.
You got to hold down a button to turn it on.
Yeah, I kind of wish there was an option to flip it around the other way. Yeah. Whereas like hold button, because it's either you're attacking or you're rotating the camera. Yeah. I kind of wish it was like hold down button to attack rather than, because most of the time I want to rotate the camera.
What I found very funny was I went to Nintendo Switch Reddit. People were talking about, like, and they're making the exact same thing. We're like, well, by default, moving the camera makes more sense because most of the game is spent exploring, and then you could just push a button which unsheath the sword, and then you got sword control. And like, yeah, but then you'd have to hold 2 buttons to then lock on and do the things. So it's like, well,
you got 2 fingers.
No, you have 1.
Well, it could also just do it on the lock on button as well. 1 button is for walking around with the sword out, and 1 is for lock on with the sword out.
Why are you locking on and not having the sword out?
There isn't a restriction in programming that says only 1 button's allowed to do a thing. 2 buttons, 1 could do that, and an additional. Anyway, so we're getting nitpicky now.
But that's probably control-wise the only weird thing for a game which was designed for.
I just found myself not using free look.
I've only used it less.
I just use that tap to go behind the button a lot.
Well, and that's how the game was designed.
Yeah.
It's not.
I've just naturally gone back down that
I'm just
path.
So used to dual stick control with a thing.
But what I'm impressed is like that game was so heavily designed for motion controls,
and
that was part of the problem of always bringing this to other systems. That's my biggest gripe with the controls. Like apart from that, it's
they've
pretty
done a
good.
Pretty good job of translating.
Yeah, it just sort of works every once in a while.
And if you want that original experience, just undock the things and you can play
you can play it exactly the way it was originally intended. Visually, it runs 720 on the Switch and 1080 on the dock. As I'm playing it, and especially in handheld mode, because it has that small size. If this is what the new Zelda looked like, I'd be
perfectly acceptable.
It is now 2 generations old, 3 generations old. All right.
I mean, it looked good when it came out.
Yeah.
And I think part of it, they've been so clever with the limitations. Like, they've got such a super low resolution on those textures. Like, they're really muddy.
Well, it's that blotchy watercolor.
They've run some kind of filter over something, but even though those textures are real low, and the color palette is, like, the color choices of that game are phenomenal.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And just the design, like, as I start exploring the world and I see how elements, it's like, this is just visually so well designed. I'm having a wonderful time. It's it's one of those things where originally when it's like, it's an old Zelda and it's full priced, and it's not. We haven't really changed any of the graphics. It's just running at a higher resolution. Like, that's so Nintendo, but it's a new game. It feels.
And also, this was the one that hardly anyone played. Like, it was just.
Yeah, it sold the worst out of all of the Zeldas. It had a bad reception. A lot of people treat it as if it's the worst one. Like, I always look at it as being, it's the precursor to Breath of the Wild. Because there is so much in Skyward that you can see turned into systems in Breath of the Wild.
Like, as I said,
Skyward's where they brought in the stamina and all that.
And the glider.
But then they also had the problem of like, oh, we've given you stamina, but there's all these areas where it's a pain in the ass to have stamina, so we're just going to put things that refill your stamina everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah.
Was that an addition? Or was that
that was in the original game. It was like a solution to a problem that they created.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
It's like, we could just remove this. It's like,
But it's like, there's areas where having stamina
out code is so hard.
Makes sense. So, yeah.
No, it's really... And I do
I always really enjoyed it.
And the combat does feel really good with that stick. I should actually go and try the motion controls again anyway, see what I prefer.
Yeah.
Because I feel like back when I originally played it, even though it got the direction right, it was still like swing, then the character swung. So it wasn't like a one-to-one thing. So in many ways, I think the stick might... I'll go back and try it and see what I feel.
Because I found... I was playing it with the motion controls the other day because I figured out that I could hold a baby and very easily have detached. So I kind of had it, the Wii propped up somewhere and I was holding a baby bouncing, doing a thing. But yeah, and the motion controls are working fine, even in this weird, awkward position. Plus, baby,
and even if you weren't playing motion with it, like that's one of the things I've always said about the Switch. Like I've been
detached
in some
hands is so useful.
I've been in some real weird positions sometimes, especially on airplanes because I'm so broad. Like seeing that, but so I'll be playing a game like this with I've got my hands up, I've crossed my arms and got my hands next to my head, and like this is fine. what are you complaining about, weirdo? It's great so far. Really, really happy with it. Much happier than the other Nintendo Switch exclusive I played a month ago and haven't spoken about on the show, called Mario Golf. Mario Golf, they forgot to finish. Okay, can I finish the review now?
Yeah, is that it?
That's most of it. So, okay, how much did they forget to finish this game?
Most of it.
I like the fundamentals of what they've done. They've made a few changes. One of them is like, you know how when you're playing a golf game with a sort of like the 2-power swing thing, it's like, okay, well you aim your shot and you try to hit max and then you try to get like the next one up. So the next one doesn't exist anymore. It's gone. Now it's something where you can sort of push the stick left and right to shape where the ball's going to go, whether it's going to curve left or right. Gives you a little bit too much power. You can make some basically 90-degree angles on that thing, which you never have to use during the game. But anyway, if you max power it, at the very end, the bar starts fanning out, and that represents a random chance of how far your shot's going to go off track. So if you want to go max power the whole time, your ball's going to drift somewhere. So if it's like a big straight green that's wide open, who cares? If it goes a little bit to the left or the right, it doesn't make a difference. But if you're trying to be specific, it's like, well, maybe I actually need to do 90% power. So for once, I might choose to do 90% power with it. They gave me a choice. Great work, Nintendo. Good choice. And as I say, the next one, the ball shaping thing, would be great if they had designed to need the courses to require it. All the courses have like lots of unique obstacles, and most of the time it's golf. You just don't hit it near them. Problem solved. Okay, so how unfinished is it? The adventure mode, which looked like it might be a little bit like the classic RPG, is not. It has an RPG thing, but pretty much when you do anything, suddenly you're going up 5 levels, and I didn't even do anything. Oh, here you go, max everything out. And at the basis, what you expect is, okay, it's a golf story, not to be confused with Golf Story, where you're going to go through each course. There'll be a bunch of like little mini side adventures on the way, and then like there'll be a big championship at the end. So about 2/3 of the way through, they suddenly bring in this plot about some ancient evil and whatever. It's like, what? And there's 3 boss fights, which are fine. And they don't even get you to play every hole of golf in the game.
What's the point?
Well,
wouldn't that be the point?
It's kind of a soft tutorial to introduce a few things. Yeah. So they've got a few new things like there's traditional golf, but then there's speed golf, which you're all on the course at the same time, and you all hit off at the same time, and you're running around, you can hit each other, and there's power shots, so sometimes you can get into a standoff where, okay, we're both going to try and hit the green, but whoever hits their second will be able to knock the other balls away, so you're just sitting there waiting for the other person to have a swing. So fun ideas like that. And the one I liked the most, cross-country golf, which is just, okay, here's a course. Hit the holes in any order you want, in the lowest number of strokes. You just start from the last hole you got it in. So it's like, oh, well, this one's up that cliff. I'll go up there. So, as I said, that's my favorite mode. Can only play it on one course and it's not multiplayer. Why?
Okay.
I don't know. It's just like, why is that restriction there? And that's all the way through. It's like, why is it, like, they show you all these different modes of golf and you can't sort of mix and match all the options and everything for multiplayer?
Feel like a demo.
Not so demo. Look, it's got all this, like, there are trailers that have show you holes in New Donk City, which doesn't exist in the game. It's a DLC that's coming. When is it coming? I don't know. There's a list of DLC that's coming. I looked up, tried to find it with the details. Oh, here are the details. And it was all TBA, not announced. And it was just a joke article because they haven't said anything about what's coming.
Is this maybe a COVID victim?
Maybe there's had a release date that they couldn't shift, so they're just like, we'll finish the game later. Because it's just like, why just aren't all the modes available in multiplayer? Why does a golf game only support more than 2 players on the same console if you're playing standard take-turn golf? At which point, why is it limited to 4 players? Because it's take-turn golf. It's like, you could have as many as you fucking want. And then because it's got a battle mode. It's got which is a bit like cross-country golf. You're given this stadium and there's holes everywhere. It's first person to 3 holes wins. And there's obstacles everywhere. So it's like choosing which hole is the best to go to strategically and everything. It's a good mode and everything. But again, only 2 people on one console. And you really want to play it with at least 4. Well, you want to play it with 4, sorry. So you need 2 consoles to do it. And you, like, if you want to play online, great. But it's Nintendo. Their online's terrible. And even though their online works, it's like, but I want to trash talk friends and talk shit if I'm playing a party game on Nintendo with them. So it's like, I really like the fundamentals and I like golf, but course design and content-wise, it's just not finished. I'm like, down with you, golf. I like that tennis game way more. That was really good.
Tennis was fun.
Yeah, the problem with that game was that it was way too technical. It's like, okay, I've played the single player now. I understand how all these systems work. Who wants to play me? Sorry, you have no chance in hell. Not even because I'm good, just because I understand all these stupid systems now. It's like, oh, okay. We just need to go back to Virtua Tennis.
What we need is a reboot of Frolf, the frog golf game.
Yeah.
That's what we need.
So many good, like, weird golf games around. Yeah. I decided, because I was doing a golf episode on Zed Games, I was like, I bet if I go to itch and type in golf, I'll find some interesting things. Like lots of like itch Dark Souls, golf Dark Souls and stuff like that. But literally it's hundreds. It's like golf is so simple of a concept to build off.
It's nice and easy to make.
Yeah.
I think.
And then you just put a twist on it.
Yeah.
It's like, anyway. Let's do some news. Okay, this first news isn't really news, and it's really getting close to finding out what's really going on, but I'm so excited. So, I actually haven't written down any of the details, I've forgotten half of them now, but there's this game coming out that everyone is convinced is a new Silent Hill. But it's not. But now, maybe it will be, because I've been convinced by the crazy conspiracy theory people.
Is Kojima involved in this somehow?
No.
Oh.
But remember last time there was Kojima's not making a new Metal Gear, and it was like he obviously is. So I think I need to bring up some details here because as I say, I wrote this a while ago. I forgot the details of it. Basically, it's one of those things like they released a trailer for it, and it's just basically just like a forest generator. I think it's in Unreal, and it's just going through with a terrible voiceover. Like it's an asset flip if you've ever seen one. And then they like posted some tweet about the game we're working on starts with S and ends with L. It's like Silent Hill. It's definitely Silent Hill. And apparently the lead developer's name is an anagram of Kojima if it was translated to Finnish.
Yep.
And shit like that.
Like legitimately. I've just clicked onto what you're talking about. Because they had to make the devs have made a statement that it's not nothing to do with Kojima. Yeah.
So here's the thing. I think this week or
everyone thinks it's a marketing ploy.
They're releasing an app on PS5. An app that lets you watch the trailer they're about to reveal rendered on your local machine.
It just sounds like another PT.
Okay.
Like, what the fuck is that? Who is allowing it and why? What's the point?
So it's just like a cutscene app.
Yeah.
Abandon is the game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's like, well, it's not, yeah, it's just like, it's because they're releasing a new trailer with it, but they're releasing an app to watch the trailer on. I'm like, this is unprecedented.
Rather than like pre-rendering it.
Yeah.
You can be like, oh, you can just have it run on your machine. Here's a cutscene. As an entire thing.
I mean, sure. You can.
Yeah.
Yes, you can, and nobody has. And why is this weird asset flip looking game doing it? And it started getting so weird that now I'm just like, maybe there is something going on.
The only reason
people have been looking up like business registration details in Finland and like trying to chase down like any mention of who the devs are and like their real names and shit to like track down things. Yeah, it's turned into a weird.
It's worth looking at.
Some weird ARG.
Yeah.
Is it an ARG?
Yeah,
they just really want it to be an ARG.
Legitimately be a bunch of Finnish dudes trying to make a game in the weirdest way possible.
I do like that when I typed abandon into Google and it auto-completed abandoned Silent Hill. Like, it is just... okay, abandoned Hideo Kojima just got much weirder on YouTube. So it's Blue Box Games. Okay. Anyway, you look this up in your own time if you want to go down a rabbit hole of craziness. At a certain point, they're going to reveal this new trailer, and I'm sure things will either be clarified or become much worse.
My bet's on the second one.
Yeah, it's... Oh, God. But it's so weird. Everything's weird about it. Okay. Let's move on, or we'll never get anything done. Okay, hey, I had the old story on here, and now there's a new story. So, some person remade GoldenEye entirely in Far Cry 5.
Very impressively.
Yes, they did a pretty damn good job. And then, of course, as they should have, Ubisoft removed it because they didn't want to get sued. Because this is one of the problems with mods that are hosted like officially in a game system. They kind of got to not get sued.
Yeah.
So we made a few changes and re-uploaded it. That's the end of the story now. You can go and play it if you really want.
Renamed it.
Yeah. It's brown.
Definitely not GoldenEye.
Yeah, it's Brown Eye now. It's fine. Yes. Cyberpunk is back in PlayStation form. Man, I like it. This news is weeks old now. It's great. Cyberpunk has finally been released on PlayStation again.
Didn't they turn off all the crowds?
No, they didn't turn them off. They're scaled down. But the thing is, it literally has a warning on the page saying, if you have a base PS4, we recommend you do not play this game. Weirdly, super popular on the base PS4.
There's a lot of people that wanted Cyberpunk that don't have new consoles.
Yeah,
it's just how it is.
I do love that they still release it and just put a warning at the front, like, don't play it, please.
This is terrible. Don't do it.
Yeah, but, I mean, I talked to people that have played through the whole game on PS4 and like, oh, I didn't even know there was a problem. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Enjoy. I mean, I still haven't put much time into that game. Yeah. I'm still planning to go back next year. That's my
that's always been my plan with it. Though I don't know if much has been happening.
No, you might need to wait longer than
maybe
a
2
year,
years, 2 or 3.
They've already gone past some of their own set milestones.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what they do because it feels like they kind of need to do a make do to get confidence in the company back, but also they might just make another cool Witcher thing and everyone will forget it exists.
Well, they are dropping Witcher 3 DLC.
Yeah, which is and free upgrade to next gen.
Samurai Ronin stuff.
I thought that was a comic book they were doing.
No, it's getting DLC as well, I believe.
Okay.
Plus some other shit.
Cool.
Is that because The Witcher 3 prints them money?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
It's their Skyrim.
And they're doing like the show tie-in add-ons and things.
Yeah, that's what I heard. It was show tie-in stuff. I thought the Ronin Samurai stuff was like a...
I think there's something being added to the game for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's probably just a cool armor set.
Yeah, which,
it's called
cool.
It's called the Sashimi.
Play The Witcher, but I can be a ninja warrior instead.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Let's do it. Okay. Ads in Oculus Rift. I don't care. It was fun. The creator of SNES 9X passed away. Yeah.
What age? Do you remember the age?
SNES, no, I don't. He wasn't crazy old.
I wouldn't think so.
How old was he?
Yeah, well, that's a shame. I mean, that's a...
I mean, he was pretty prolific just in emulator scene. Yeah. When was he? So Hector Martin, I should have said his name. That's not his... No, Nia. Nia is his name. That's how we know. What's his actual name? I don't know if I know his actual name. I was like, oh, there we go. Hector Martin's like, oh no, that's just a friend of his. So I don't know if we know his name. Okay, that might be why we don't. Yeah, so, yeah. Anyway, SNES 9X, I'm sure all of us have never used an emulator and certainly never used SNES 9X.
No, definitely not.
Or
it's definitely not one of the best.
Or
SNES
Nesticle
emulators.
or Genesis. Yeah. I don't know if it had anything to do with those. But emulators have good names. Okay. 505 have teamed up officially with Remedy. And they have announced 2 new control projects. One of them, can you tell me what genre it is, James?
I have no idea. I'm going to say party game.
Close. What is the popular genre at E3 this year?
It's the Left 4 Dead's back.
Yes, Left 4 Dead Control is coming. So 4-player co-op control game.
Okay, no, yeah, sure.
Yep.
Did Battle Royale trick everyone into having 3 friends they could play games with, and then everyone got fed up with Battle Royale?
It could be.
And then game devs are going like, well, we need games for 4 people.
Oh
now.
shit!
We did this to ourselves.
Stop this thing we got out back here.
Yeah, pretty much. It's really the trend at the moment. But I mean, I love the Control universe; is great.
Yeah.
So we'll see what they do. That. So they're doing that, which is more in the short-ish term. I'm sure it'll still be a few years. And then they're doing a bigger budget Control 2. Because I mean, that's the thing. Like Control was still for all it did was still a pretty constrained game. What they pulled off there. So that with a bigger scope could be crazy. And we might even leave that bloody house.
Maybe.
Or maybe we find out the house is actually the outside, and the outside is the inside of the house. Oh, God! Okay, Housemarque have been acquired by Sony, so they're now Sony-owned, which is probably pretty good for them. Gives them a lot of security, and I'm sure after Returnal, there's a lot of faith in them, and they're going to go even bit because they've been wanting to scale up for a while. Which is why they were making Returnal, because they're like, no one wants to buy our little arcade games. What if we tricked people and made it look like a AAA, like third person? Sony loves third person over the shoulder games, right? Let's just do that same thing. Hey, it worked. We tricked them all. So congratulations, Housemarque. They also purchased Nixxes Software, which is mainly known for porting games to PC.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sony seems to be doing more of that.
So Bloodborne PC confirmed.
Yeah, definitely.
Locked at 30.
Okay. Oh, look at this line of news. The Nintendo Switch Disappointment Edition. I must have been feeling things at that. Followed by Steam announces Switch Pro. The Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut was announced, which is more Ghost of Tsushima, and it does kind of the thing that we're seeing a little bit of unfortunate of. It's like, well, you can upgrade to the content for this much money, unless you're in PS5, in which case it's $10 extra. Why?
Because we can.
Because they can.
Because you'll pay it.
Like, just do some good faith in it. Jeez, like, anyway. So yeah, I do not like this current trend of calling things Director's Cut. There's also the Death Stranding Director's Cut coming out, which Kojima came out saying he doesn't like it either.
Don't call it the Director's Cut.
And here's the thing. If the director doesn't like the title, it's definitely not a Director's Cut.
Yeah.
But weirdly,
just call it Game of the Year Edition,
Extended Edition,
Extended Edition. They're just like
Enhanced Edition. All these things.
Definitive Edition. There are many words you can use that don't make Kojima mad.
Because I don't think Kojima was restrained when he made Death Stranding.
Death Stranding Super Redux Edition.
But his pitch was to call it Director's Plus. Like that's just no.
But those are just words that don't make sense.
Yeah, Kojima, stop having ideas. Use them all up.
That was his last one.
You're done. You're out. But as soon as you made oh god, actually we probably didn't even talk about it on the show. So Death Stranding Director's Cut got announced, and there's more stuff. You can catapult packages now. There's a little robot that follows you. I don't think it was because it was only 2 weeks ago.
There's a racing mode.
Yes, there is now Death Stranding
Go-kart
Kart.
racing.
Yes. I'll just see what date that was because there's other stuff.
It is.
No, we didn't mention it. We just talked about it a bunch on Discord.
I am very excited to have an excuse to replay Death Stranding.
Yeah.
Because that state of play also revealed that Moss 2 is coming.
Yes.
Which I didn't need to really pay any attention to because all I needed was confirmation it was happening. Which I just kind of assumed anyway. Coming early next year to PSVR and
Quest 3?
Well, they'll be up to Quest 4 or 5 by then. But I was thinking PSVR 2.
Do you think that RE4 is going to come out before the next Quest?
No. They're going to do a lot of them quests. Yeah. Anyway, it was June, wasn't it? Anyway, we're in July now. Oh no, it was in July. Anyway, yeah, they showed off more Deathloop as well, and a few other games that looked pretty cool, including Jet. They showed off some Jet, which we finally saw, which is this new Super Brothers game. You know, Sword and Sworcery. And that looks delightful to me, because we saw like some clips from it a while back. Like, okay, so it kind of looks like a scene from Interstellar, like watching a spaceship from a distance go along a landscape. I don't get what you do in the game, though. So what you do is you fly a spaceship along a landscape from a distance. And it's mostly an exploration game about, like, trying to make things nice and very little in the way of any combat or anything. I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Sounds like a good game.
I want to chill out in some cool planets with some spaceships. And you go down, it turns all walking simulatory. Then you get back up and do some cool skids. Oh man, nothing like a peaceful jet skid. I could call the episode Peaceful Jet Skid.
Yeah, you can change it.
I can do anything I want. What do you mean change it? It's never said anything. I have to type something into the field when we publish it, and it's whatever's on my mind at the time.
But is it going to be, what was it again?
Technically,
Peaceful Jet Ski.
Technically, Paul always changes it.
Peaceful Jet Skid.
It's a skid. It's a skid. That's the peaceful part. Yeah, who knows? Whatever. I'll just call it James's final episode.
Brackets final, brackets 1.
I think, isn't there a Canadian studio called Final.Final? And that's the funniest shit like, that's the best studio name ever. Invasion mode for Doom has been officially axed. It's gone, and instead they're adding a wave-based... I don't care. It's fine.
Yeah, I was a bit disappointed that Invasion mode didn't make it in. It was kind of neat.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Apparently it didn't work. Or wasn't good or something. There's a reason they nixed it. Not sure why. I guess we'll get to play Invasion mode in Deathloop now.
Yeah. I guess it would need someone playing single player. There need to be enough concurrent single player players to have invaders to come in.
I would say the thing they did was fuck up not getting it in the original release.
Yes, yeah. It's definitely not something you can bring after launch.
Yeah, especially this far after launch. Cool news. So those that are acquainted was the correct word the first time, and then I changed it for some reason, with the history of id Software, know that they created a version of Mario 3, which they pitched to Nintendo to try and port it to the PC.
Which I know because I've listened to the audiobook of
Masters of
Doom, which of course Paul
also did, and you somehow forgot me mentioning it.
I don't know how. I have no idea how James forgot.
James was like, "Oh, have you done Masters of Doom yet, Paul?" I'm like,
there's an entire episode based on it.
It was my joke. So John Romero has shown it off before, but now it's been acquired by a museum. And it's actually, like, I'm not always like, everything needs to be preserved. There's a lot of things that it's like, yeah. But this is actually a pretty big
neat piece of history.
Yeah. It's like, it's not just that they made Mario 3, it's that this was representing when John Carmack was able to make smooth scrolling on PC, which was quite a technological achievement at the time. Like, these days, it's like, you don't think anything of it. But back then, it was like, PC games can't do this. They are shit.
Well, they were restricted to one screen.
Yeah. So, it's a landmark thing. It's a really interesting part of history, and I'm glad it's preserved in some way, because it's cool. Okay. Company of Heroes 3 got announced.
A video got released.
And you can play it.
Yeah.
You can play it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a public test.
Oh, okay. I missed that part. I just saw
Paul posted about it being announced on the Discord about 30 minutes after I started watching a streamer play it.
Good work.
How's it look?
It looks pretty good.
It looks good. Yeah. It's one of those things where you go like, oh, it looks like Company of Heroes, and then I go back and look at Company of Heroes 2, and I'm like, oh no, it looks much better.
Yeah, it looks like Company of Heroes, but improved.
Yeah, it looks like what I remember it looked like when it first came out, which is cool. They're sort of pushing back for more infantry. Like, how much do you want to get in the guts? You can now breach buildings that are occupied. That used to be a bit of a thing where the only thing you could do previously was knock the building down. But you need to have the firepower to be able to do that. So now infantry can just run up, kick the door in, and throw in a grenade. Like, I love Company of Heroes. Well, I did. I haven't been playing it actively in recent times because it is that it's a little bit more micro, but you're really understanding the people that are in there. Like, people take cover, and like you understand that there's like actual things involved here, and it feels like you're moving through a real landscape.
It's not like you've got squad of Alien 1 and squad of Alien B, and this one has 0.1 higher damage, so you know that it's going to kill
it's
this
like,
one.
It's like, oh shit, what if we scramble through these trees and do this? And it always just felt a bit more natural, and like it felt very reactive to what I would do. And sometimes you just have a cool tank war. But yeah, I've still got friends that basically the only game they play is Company Heroes. It's like, I see you've crossed the 4,000 hour mark. One of them commented,
"People have some real dedication.
How does Paul have so many games?" Like, well, Paul plays more than one game, and he's also has a problem, so that's also there. Nickelodeon announced Nickelodeon All Stars Brawl, which is their Smash ripoff, and it's
our Super Smash Brothers at home.
It comes in with a few things. One, the developers seem to be putting more attention than I'd expect for something that I expect would just be a kiddie ripoff. Let's make some money. It's like they're actually trying. Which is hopefully good.
It's like they've been given a license or multiple licenses.
A lot of licenses.
A lot.
To play with.
The roster is pretty
instead
good.
of just spitting out a cheap licensed game.
So I have the announced roster here. And I needed some of this because I am too old for some of the shows. So Helga from Hey Arnold. Nice. Danny Phantom from Danny Phantom, who I didn't recognize. I'd never seen before. Someone posted us like a gif of them, and I'm like, I don't know who that is. I'm going to call them White Man because he's got white hair. That's all I got. Sandy Cheeks from SpongeBob. Zim from Invader Zim. Nigel Thornberry.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah,
top tier.
Yeah, like
fighter right
it's
there.
One of those things. I've never watched the Wild
I'm already
Thornberries.
building the power tier.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's like, but I know the memes.
He's right up.
That's all I need. Michelangelo Leonardo from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. SpongeBob, Patrick are both there. Reptar from Rugrats.
And I really want Stu to be in there, but he's not announced.
Not announced.
But I reckon
DLC.
I will buy this game.
Later.
And the moment they put Stu in that game.
Lincoln and Lucy Loud from something called The Loud House. Have any of us ever heard of this?
Never heard of that one.
Good. Oblina from Are Real Monsters.
I do know that.
And the one that... I know that one too. Yeah. That's it. And the one that started the whole trailer and got me going, Powdered Toast Man from Ren and Stimpy.
The cool thing about this is there's such a big spread that you can...
you got like at least 4 generations of kids in that nostalgia pile.
Like that's pretty cool. Like, I'm far more excited about this than
I should be.
I really should be.
Yeah, from a history of licensed games and Smash ripoffs. I mean, has there ever been a good Smash ripoff? I guess maybe that Brawlhalla is okay. Yeah, but otherwise...
And there was that Sony one.
I said, is there anyone that were good?
Do you remember we played the Kung Fu Panda one, though?
Oh, God, yeah.
That was fantastic.
I'd repressed that.
I forgot. For some reason, I thought you were going to say Kung Fu Chaos. So I'm like, I mean, that was good, but it's not quite Smash.
No.
Oh, no. No, Kung Fu Panda. Jeez. Okay. So that'll be interesting. There are more characters in the silhouette of the box art. One has been very easily identified as Cat Dog. But I don't know if that's going to be 2 different characters. I hope it's a co-op character.
Oh, yes.
Start pulling some of this weird Smash shit.
Yeah, because Smash hasn't pulled a 2-player character yet.
No.
They pulled some weird things.
They really need to pull 2-player.
They've only technically got one left, don't they?
Yes. And this is definitely the last one.
It better be weird.
That's what they've said.
If it's not weird, I'm going to be so angry.
Because the current set that they've got, the like 5 DLC fighters for this last set, haven't been weird.
Yeah, they've been a bit plain.
They've been a bit normal.
Do you like this?
More
We put them in
characters where, like Minecraft Steve, they had to rewrite basically the whole game just to have them in
Yeah, exactly.
I want that.
Well, remember my pitch, I think this last episode, my pitch was that they have a water.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just turns up and it's like, I'm going to reprogram the game. Yeah. Now it's golf. Fantastic. That does remind me of something we skipped talking about with Skyward Sword. The last 2, look, let's even just skip it. There's so much to talk about and we got limited time. So what I did skip with Skyward Sword is that there's a function in Skyward Sword that you can only do with the amiibo. Now, Sam,
is that the amiibo there's a shortage of?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Yeah, because last week I'm like, I like amiibo. I haven't bought an amiibo in a while, and I'm a bit sad. Oh, let's go. I forgot to get the Banjo-Kazooie amiibo. Oh, damn it. Okay, shit. They're sold out. It's on eBay. It's only a little bit more expensive than retail. I haven't used eBay in so long. They've given me a $5 coupon off. It's basically retail again. Hooray! Okay, got that one. Okay. Oh yeah, that's Skyward Sword one. Okay. Oh, Big W's got. Sold out. JB doesn't have a list. And you go, oh,
it's like it doesn't exist.
Mighty Ape has it. Cool. Oh yeah. I guess. Oh, it's a little bit. Oh yeah, whatever. It's rare anyway. And let's face it, I'm a whore. Hey James, I just bought this thing yesterday. Did you? If you wanted it, you can just get it from there. Next, James like, oh, what was that site? I go, it's gone. Yeah. They're not.
There aren't many of them.
Why does Nintendo keep putting amiibo functionality in things and then not selling? They have a store. You can't.
I went to the store. I went to their store. I'm at Nintendo. I'm gonna pay an extra $40 that you wouldn't have otherwise got from me from this video game. No,
it's maddening. It's like you. Like, we know that the retail sales have been up and down all over the place with these. I can't understand if the partners fall through, but you yourselves could just manufacture and sell them. Just
someone at Nintendo's like, we like printing money,
but only a little
don't
bit.
Print too much money.
It's just like
people hate us if we print too much.
Some producers style scam they've got going on. It's like All Stars. Like, we were so convinced that when All Stars went off sale, it's because they're just going to individually sell them or some other shit. No, it just went. Yeah. Whatever. I mean, I still don't care. I'll be like, nah, fuck it.
You can still find it.
You know what's going to emulate? You know what's Galaxy's going to play great on?
Oh, on the Steam Deck.
The Steam Deck. Yeah. It's going to be fucking beautiful. And the other games can suck my dick. Actually, no, that's not true. I'll just play the superior emulated PC ports. You should see the shit they've done with Mario 64. It's wild.
Oh, yeah, it is pretty good.
Pretty good stuff. Okay.
I should say with that amiibo, you can jump onto eBay and buy a coin with the little scanner in it.
Oh yeah,
for like $9.
You don't even need to do that.
You just buy RFID tags, and just with your phone you can make them anything you want.
Yeah. So
that's what people do with Animal Crossing.
There's a specific type you need to do amiibos, but it still works. There is an app that just lets you put an amiibo.
Yeah, just write it to anything. Yeah. It's like, have a little wallet of NFC tags. That's how the people do all their Animal Crossing weirdness.
Yeah.
I need 1 million of the snarky cat.
So the thing with the Skyward Sword thing is like, when we first heard about it, we thought that's a dumb thing to attach to an amiibo that just fast travel, like whenever you want. Weird. I guess everyone else just has to use the owl statues to do it.
Which are pretty much everywhere anyway.
They're everywhere. And then it's like, oh, the game also has autosave. It's like, so we don't need to go to the owl statues to save, because the game just autosaves.
Yeah.
What's the fucking point of the owl statues?
Yeah.
Just let me travel wherever without the amiibo. And delete the owl statue.
It's just weird.
From the game.
Well, you can make a hard save with an owl statue. Because it's like, James and I have been playing RE Village together. And we're near the end.
I think we're getting near the end, yeah.
Yeah. But what we have discovered is that when I save, I walk up to the typewriter and go, dun, yes, dun, dun, dun. James goes down to an unused save slot.
Oh, we may need to go back to an earlier.
James has played a lot of old school point-and-click adventure games where you need 100 saves.
I mean, I do understand that. If it was a Sierra game, I'd be right on board with it. I'm just like, James, when have we ever, in the history of us ever playing a game together, gone back to a save?
We may need to go back to an earlier time.
That would mean we have to replay the stuff afterwards. We're not doing that. Anyway. Okay, so games. Let me talk about the game that I'm very excited about. I only just finished today, and I only get to talk about it if I release this episode on Tuesday night after 11 p.m, which is when the NDA lifts. I have been playing Death's Door. Yay. It is by the team that made Titan Souls, which is a game that I think is beautiful, and I love the concept of, and I suck so extremely hard at that I've never been able to play much of it, and it sucks. I mean, it doesn't suck, I suck. But it's just not tuned to the level I can play it. It's basically Shadow of the Colossus, but it's like one hit and you're dead. It's just like, oh, I'm not getting very far in this. But yeah, it was really cool. So this is published by Devolver. You are a crow. You are a reaper. So in this world, the reapers work in this afterlife, and you're all immortal until you're given a charge. You must go collect this soul. And if you don't collect that soul, you will just continue to age. This is the setup of the plot. So you go out, you go and collect your soul, first boss fight, and then just as you're about to grab it, a big old crow comes by and knocks you out and grabs your soul and runs off. Because years ago, he also had a similar charge, and his soul, he lost it. So it went through this door, and he wants to open up this door, and he figured if he gets some other souls, he'd be able to do it, but it didn't work. So no, sorry, you're fucked too. But maybe we can open this door, and here comes the game structure to you. If you go and defeat these 3 lords and get their extremely large souls, we can open the big door.
It sounds very familiar.
Yes. So Hence, here comes the video game. So the video game is very front-loaded. If you've watched the trailer, you see there's a whole lot of bosses, and they look really cool. I'm sorry to tell you that trailer contains almost all the bosses. But still a lot, which is good. But it's so front-loaded. Before you see the opening title, I think you fight 3 or 4 bosses. And they're cool. I like them. So the game... My major complaint of the game is that it's very obviously structured. It's like, okay, you got these 3 bosses. They've each got an area. You can only access the first area, so it's not like you can pick which one to go to. Go through. There'll be a Zelda-ish dungeon. So there'll be sort of an intro area. Go into a Zelda-ish dungeon. Solve it. There'll be sort of a trial fight where you'll get a new power. And then after that, there'll sort of be a second dungeon, which is like a combat, like a gauntlet you're almost going through, and then you'll fight the boss. And they all do the same pattern, which means it's like they're all in separate environments, and they bring in new mechanics and things, but it's like, I know what the structure is going to be. And then there's like the big bad. You'll work it out very easily in the game. When the big bad first makes themselves announced to you, it's like, you'll be who we're fighting at the end. The combat's awesome. So it's very old school PC. It's this isometric view, a little bit pulled back, and it's like the tiles could almost be just 2D painted sprite sort of thing, like like a Mystic Towers or some shit like that. Except then every once in a while the game just rotates because it needs to show you a secret or something. You're like, oh, wait, this is all 3D. And what I really want the devs to just release like a pulled back map, because each area is just one huge space, which is, and this is the only time I'm really going to mention Dark Souls, because it isn't Dark Souls-ish very much. But the map design is just like, how Dark Souls likes multi-layering and then having shortcuts?
Yeah. Like you spend 3 hours in an area and you open a door and you suddenly realize that everything's connected.
This thing is like every 10 steps. You want another shortcut? Here's a shortcut to this. Here's a shortcut to that. Hey, did you know this was connected to that? Then another shortcut. It's great. And I'll come back to that idea. I am going to be mostly content spoiler free in this, or just mechanics and sort of the structure of the game. So what you do is you have your melee attack and you have magic power, and you'll get different magic powers you can switch between, but they all work the same. You hold a trigger to stop moving, so you can point in a direction. You hold down charge and you release. So your initial one is an arrow, so you're shooting an arrow. Now, you do not collect new arrows and you do not regenerate arrows. You get your arrows back by hitting things. So if you are just fighting a boss in an arena, you can shoot off 4 arrows and then you have no arrows. So you must hit the boss 4 times with your melee to get 4 arrows back.
Okay.
Which means you constantly have to be going back and forth. Some areas will just have like some shit around you can hit. So if you want to be just more distance, it's like, okay, take you guys out and I'll just hit these mushrooms and then I'll take out some more guys. But it does give like this big throw and keeps things sort of more dynamic. You're constantly changing ranges and moving through. You've got to roll and all that. And all your abilities can be, you get currency from killing things. Not very much though. You mostly have to find like soul balls, and then you go back to the head office and you cash them in at a bigger crow, because the crows are all cool. This game is delightful. Like the designs of everything is insane. Very early you meet a character. I have seen this published elsewhere, which is why I mentioned him. His name is Pothead. He has a pot for a head. That's his curse. Not only does he have a pot for a head, it's full of soup, and he likes to offer you some. Would you like some soup, sir? It's beautiful. It's great. And the first sort of area that you're exploring is this it's called the Ceramic Manor. I'm just picking about how much I'll say about things. And it's just like, every time you encounter a new enemy in that area, because it's all themed and everything, it's delightful. I'm like, oh, you're dangerous, but also so cute. And the combat's very solid. Everything works. Everything's very readable. The bosses are great. When I got near the end of the game, I started running into a couple of bosses that just were taking a bunch of time. But then I kind of realized if I really focused on using both ranged and melee to the max, it actually didn't take that long. The worst was kind of when you approach the last boss and it's like you do a phase and then there's like a platforming section between each phase, but if you die you've got to do all the platforming sections again. Like, But then when I took a day off and I came back, I'm like, oh, this is actually incredibly easy. It's really not until you get to the end of that where you're the real boss fight, and that's checkpoint as well, so you don't have to redo everything before. I was just having a bad day, I think. So it is challenging, but it's not crazy. If you are good at sort of an action adventure, if you're good at doing some dodge rolls and shooting some arrows off, it's good. It's not like I couldn't do Titan Souls. If you could do that, you can definitely do this. So here's So this is slightly spoiler for the thing of the game. So I'm getting, as I say, I was at the end boss. But I wasn't sure if I was at the end boss. Because my save file said 75% complete. Now, I thought, there's a bunch of shit I know I haven't done in this game. I know I haven't been through this door here, I haven't done that, and there's a character you meet about 2/3 of the way through the game who will tell you where secrets are. The game has no map.
Oh, okay.
He will say, hey, I hear there's something near an elevator by this. And you're like, oh, well, now I'm off on a quest. And I love it.
Off on a little adventure.
He'll tell you 3 secrets at once. And it's like, okay, well, I'll go off and do that. And you don't have to do all 3. You can just do one. I'll come back and tell you another one and that. But I love this, like, oral description of, like, where to find things. And often I go off and I go, okay, there's one around this area. I go, oh, is that what he meant? Oh, yeah. Go back there. Nope, didn't solve that one. I've solved another one. Didn't know about it. But it's packed with all these secrets. So I'm like, oh, is there actually that much content that I just haven't discovered yet? Upgrades that I haven't got yet. And there are some really cool upgrades that I didn't even, that are just, they're off the beaten track. You can finish the game, never even know they exist. Like, have I missed that much content? So, whilst I encourage anyone to follow that character, do some stuff, the game does not stop when the game stops. And my game finished at about 80%, and I think that last 20% might be fucking enormous. From what I have touched since that, I'm like, oh.
So when you think you're at the final boss, you're not.
You may not be. You're certainly at the end of the story they were telling in the main thing, but I think there is something. I think there is way more stuff to discover. Because I know where some things are, I just don't know how to get there. And I figured this last thing I was going to do was just going to give me that. Nope. I'm not saying anything more about it, but I'm like, oh, this is not what I was expecting to happen at the end of this game. This is interesting, and I basically feel like I have to re-explore the entire game now, which is a pretty cool feeling. And I don't hate, because it's like it took about 8 hours to beat the game. So even with all the extra stuff, even if there's a few more hours on it, it's still not stupidly long. But the game is like, you know, you're slowly when you're first going through and learning it. But the game world's not crazy big, and you've opened up all the shortcuts to everything. So you can get everywhere pretty quickly. And there's fast travel doors everywhere because it takes you back to the main. It's an office building in space, so you go in there and just doors everywhere, leading everywhere in the game, and they're nicely marked. It's cool. The action is great. Its theming is awesome. This little crow taking on these nightmares, and it's got a great sense of humor. And yeah, the frustration I had with the last couple of bosses was just boss frustration. It's like, I think the last one took me like 10 goes or something. It's not like I was there banging my head off for hours. I banged my head off for like an hour. And then I'm like, I died without taking a hit. Because that's how it always goes, right?
Yeah. Just take a short break, come back to it fresh.
Yeah, but now what I'm dreading is if I'm at the quotation marks real game now, what am I going to encounter here? Because I haven't hit any bosses past this point yet, but I have encountered some weird things. So it's cool. So Death's Door will be out by the time this comes out because I can't release it before then. So it's not on the Switch.
No, which surprised me when I went looking for it.
It's on PC and it's on Xbox. It's not on Game Pass. So, but it is fucking rad, and I think you'll really enjoy it, Sam.
That's why I bought it as soon as it came up. Straight away. I was like, that game looks neat. I wonder if there's a store page. There's a store page, and I can buy it. Done.
I love the style of it, and yeah, it's cool. Okay, how are we going time? We're still alright. We can do a couple other things. Okay, James, you played some Game Maker.
Yeah, Game Maker Garage, and you played some as well.
I played the demo.
You played the demo,
which is actually pretty generous in letting you see what the game is. So if you are on the fence, wondering if it's in for you, there is a demo available on the Nintendo Switch. James.
Yeah, so I have by playing Game Maker Garage, sorry, I get the words around the wrong way.
Garage Maker Game,
whatever, that thing. The bit to play through is basically the tutorial.
Yeah.
However, it is very long. It's probably to get through it all, I don't know, 5-6 hours maybe of playing through, because it's quite a robust little thing. And the pacing, I feel like you especially, but also including me, I could have skipped some of these things. It certainly takes its time, but it takes its time. But I am not used to node-based programming.
Oh, okay.
So for me, in some ways, my experience may be disadvantaged because I'm coming into it with this preconception of how I should structure things and what I think is important. And if I don't have this particular feature, how can I, do this thing? Like as an example, so you got a node graph and you're building up your logic, and there's no OR. I'm like, no OR for a condition. I've got an AND. There's no NOR, but there's no XOR. But I guess you can kind of make them out anyway. So I'm like confused. Like, how do I make like an if statement? Like, how do I do anything in this? And then I kind of realized that the way the nodes work, you drag in multiple conditions into the one point. It's effectively an OR. So while explicitly it doesn't have a kind of OR logic gate, it's just the default gate when you drag anything into a particular point. So what I found is by working through tutorials that I thought there would be limitations, but then I do a tutorial and go, okay, I kind of see like there's this particular tool on a way to do the thing. Because what the tutorials do really well is to sort of introduce you. And so the tutorials work through different genres. I think like the first one, interestingly, is a multiplayer platformer. And it's just introducing how you put controls, how you wire them up to character controllers.
The first one is jump to get the apple. Thank you very much.
Parts the very, very beginning. Which I actually thought was kind of cool because like at the end of it, you do have this game which you could play with a friend. And you could then build on it and tweak it and things like that. And yeah, so it just sort of like works through that, and then there's like an adventure game kind of thing in there, and then there's like a racing game, and and like you actually have to do like a racing AI and stuff like that. Like, and I was always just very surprised at how much you could layer up and actually build into it. When I was playing through it, I was trying to like suss out, could I use this as a prototyping tool? Like, is there something where I could go, I've got like an idea, I don't know, just for like a game about characters jumping on a wall, maybe jumping back and forth, or like something with the complexity of Flappy Bird, or like some kind of hyper casual thing. Yeah, you kind of could. What I kind of liked was that the way that you kind of build it together is also very game dev. Like for example, like one of the things that'll introduce you to is like a platform that will appear when you do something. And so it's like, okay, how do you wire that up? The way it teaches you to do it is, well, you get a platform, you put the platform off screen, you put in a teleport widget, and then the moment you touch this thing, you tell the teleport widget to teleport it from here to here. And like that's a game dev. That's a hashtag game dev solution right there. Where like, why
don't you just make it very, very small?
Well, that's 100%. 100%. That's
because if you do, someone somewhere
is going to jump on the very small one.
Yeah,
but that's what I want.
So the way I kind of like that. I kind of like that. Like it teaches you to design things in a very game dev way. Even though later on I did find there's ways to like say toggle visibility, so you can have something where you can like it's very kind of like
there, but doesn't exist.
Yeah. So there's things you can do to like toggle visibility, but it's a bit contrived of how you do it. Like it's like you have like an object that you feed a texture into, and then you tell the texture to be invisible. You can't tell the object to be invisible. Yeah, it's kind of a bit strange. So probably the biggest thing I felt was missing from it was it has no concept of a kind of like a prefab. So if you want to have a level with 100 enemies, there's no way to go, I want to modify one enemy to modify all the enemies. You have to actually go through each one individually. And that was like the biggest thing I found, like in terms of like if I was going to actually try and make something in this, like there's no way to have like a centralized template of like what a bunch of other things are. If you want to make something like a driving AI where you put a couple of sensors at the front of it and make it turn left and right depending on if something's in that sensor, you 100% can do that. And you will have a car that will, move around. It's not going to have like a PID that's going to nicely drive it, but you'll get a basic AI in there. It's limited in what it can do, but there is enough rope in there that you can do some cool stuff. So probably one of the things I'm most disappointed isn't in there, comparing it to Mario Maker, is Mario Maker has all the community stuff, which let you play stuff and like discover stuff. None of that's there. and that is what I think will really hold this thing back from being like actually having like being a viable.
It's just like share code. You have to
find it. The only tools that exist are community built tools.
Yeah, and so I think that this thing, like even though like you say you can't import a model, right? So what you can do is you can texture things. So like you can have a cube and you can draw on it, and it's kind of surprising like the level of like. It's almost like they went, all right, here are all the restrictions. What are some things we can add to this really restrictive set to make it a bit more useful? So, like, for example, you can put a texture on thing, and then like, of all the settings you could have, one of the things will be what face is the texture on. So if you want to make a flat sprite, you can just put it on the one facing the camera, and now it's like, okay, you got a flat sprite. But it's just sort of, it's like, it feels like this... It was a weird feature to add, which you can then manipulate into doing something else.
Like you could draw a dick.
Yeah, 100% you can draw a dick. Like another thing is there's no concept of like, if say I want to make a game where I've got 2 players, and I want to detect when one player gets to the end of a race, and they're both using the player model, so they both look like a player that's running. Now, you can when you're detecting objects. You can detect what's entered it. So I can say a person has entered it. But I can't say which person. So what you have to do is you have to kind of go into this list of about maybe 50 or so other objects, which are random things, Apple, UFO, TV, whatever. And they're basically your collision layer.
Yep.
And you anchor them and make them invisible. So when someone's running, it's not the person that goes over the line, it's the banana that you've attached to them and turned off, and that's what it's detecting.
I have legitimately done things like that in game jams.
Yeah, well, yeah. And that's why like, it probably is like, it is actually such a good game dev tool, because the kind of things you have to do to wrangle this thing into doing some really cool stuff. Like, so I saw someone made like, the Doom movement mechanics where you could dash left and right and stuff like that, and like 100% you can do that.
Remade like the original Mario Kart.
One of the first things I did was like, I want to make an animation controller where I wanted to have a character where if I jump, it would swap between different sprites depending if it's grounded, going up or going down. So I could just be jump, falling, and walk left, right. And there was enough logic in there that I could have a bunch of textures that I attached to a cube that I was flicking them on and off to make a little animation controller. So like it's kind of there, but then what I can't do is then bundle that into a template and then go, now make 15 of these. So I'd have to have like individual copies of all of them. Anyway, I really like it. I think it's as an educational tool, I think it is fantastic. I think if I was 8 and like I was given this, I would do some really, really cool shit in it. The biggest thing that sucks is there is no community features.
It's a pretty big suck.
Seems like
honestly.
a big necessity for something like this.
Yeah, I think if there was if it had the same level that the Mario Maker has, I think there'd be just some amazing stuff that would come out of it. But maybe it just becomes a curation nightmare, and maybe that's one of the reasons. I don't know, but that's
That's why we can never have good online things from Nintendo. Remember the Miiverse?
Yeah, I remember Miiverse.
What a wonderful place.
Yeah, can't have nice things.
I mean, can't we just say no kids allowed? Just the one? Nintendo.
Man. Yeah, real good. Actually, I highly recommend it. I really enjoyed it. But yeah.
Yeah, it's good for building, but you can't then easily get it out to people, you can't.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, lot to learn.
But would it be better if it was made of cardboard?
Well, you had to you had to make each node out of cardboard.
Yes.
And string them together literally, and then scan it in.
Yeah. That's the next thing. What was the cardboard called?
System.
I forget now.
Labo.
That's right. Yeah, the new Labo one is a programming Labo.
Yeah.
You got to build the program in real life and then take a photo of it. That'd be good.
Mail it to Nintendo.
Okay, Sam and I have been playing a video game. A video game by some Brisbane developers.
Yeah.
This game is called Phantom Abyss.
Yeah.
And it is a very interesting game. It is a game played first person where you are diving into temples filled with traps and a big scary guardian with a magical power at a certain point. And your job is to try and get to the end of the temple and solve it. And you get one go at doing this. And after you die, that's it. But the cool gimmick is when you start up a temple, if someone else has tried it before you, you get to see their run as well and maybe watch them die. As long as you don't die before them.
Or Lundrix.
Yeah, see tricks that they do and everything. I really, really like the first level you play because there are so many ghosts.
Does it have a bit of the Super Meat Boy thing where you just see like here is like all the
little
runs?
bit, but the thing is because the mechanics are very solid. Like you've got a whip that you can throw out to just hit a ledge and then pull yourself up, and so it's not like Super Meat Boy where you just see a cascade of deaths. Most people
it's a cascade of people who get pretty far.
Yeah. It's like people doing all something, taking different runs, and I kind of like the level because the level is randomly generated to make this work, and so I was kind of expecting them to be very linear, and they're not.
No,
there's all sorts of like twists and turns, and just like there's just treasure chests in bits that are kind of awkward to get to, and is it worth trying to get to it for the risk reward? And the temples are actually quite fun to explore, at least in my experience so far, which is relatively limited. I haven't played a shitload of it, but played a little bit of it. How's your experience been, Sam?
it's good. I struggle a bit in some of the later areas, and the Guardians piss me off immensely. I wish there to be a setting where I can go like, give me less stuff, but turn off the Guardian, thanks. But I also understand why it's a thing.
Is it level 2 or 3 that the Guardian comes?
It's usually the second section of the temple. But that can shift and change.
And what's the Guardian do?
So there's 3 or 4.
I thought it was only 3, but it could be 4.
There's different Guardians. They're the temple Guardians. And the idea is when you enter, it tells you which Guardians guarding that temple, and they each have a different ability. Yeah. And
big floating head.
From a mechanical perspective, they are there to give you pressure. They are to stop you from just taking your time going through the temple. So like one of them will just it just has no clip on, and it will just point at you and go straight towards you. And if it hits you, you're dead. Like that's pretty much it. So it's got like crocodile movement, so you've got to spend a lot of time either just running away from it and skipping stuff, or taking a lot of turns to kind of make it turn around to chase you. But it just adds on that kind of time pressure. I think one shoots laser beams every X seconds, and one drops poison bombs at you every X seconds. And the further you get in the temple, the more powerful those abilities get. So the movement speed, how often it shoots, stuff like that. And just occasionally they're annoying, but that's the whole point of them existing. So like I'm in this kind of like I'll play 3 runs and then rage quit, but then I'll come back to it the next day.
The thing that I learned after I played and haven't gone again is that you can apparently bail without going all the way through the temple and take your winnings with you. Yeah. Take it like lower level relics.
You can just leave.
Yeah, I thought I had to get to the end. I've never taken
You're allowed to just temple. You're allowed to just leave. And the way it's set up is like very much like a roguelike. There is like each temple's segments of the same design, and then you go to the next floor. And between floors, you can choose to go get the relic, or you can go to the next floor if you have the key to unlock it and get the keys from chests. And the further through you get, the higher rarity key you need to keep going
to the next level.
And each whole floor of the temple introduces new mechanics, but still has that guardian chasing you and getting stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. And it gets pretty ridiculous when you're starting to dodge like heaps of dart turrets whilst jumping over a spike pit with a thing like shooting lasers at you.
As Sarah said, like if you went slowly, if you could be going slowly, most of these things are other than you just making a mistake, pretty easy to get past.
You can get past 99% of the stuff in these levels if there's no time pressure.
Yeah.
Which there isn't for the very first stage. And it's nice to just chill and explore.
Yeah, because even though there's people running around, it feels like a race, but it isn't. Because they die. Like, they can't win. You're the only one that can possibly win.
When someone else opens a chest or breaks vases and it drops coins or a key, like, it doesn't stop you getting them. It's like, if someone's opened a chest, it's just open, and you just go over there and pick up all the stuff.
It saves you opening it.
There's one whip type you can take in that gives you double coins, but you lose it if someone else gets there first, which is a nice little trade-off. Which is the other thing I've been having with is all these different whips, which give you different abilities, and they all have a positive and negative. I found out, and I didn't know how I've done it, so I have to find out how I've done it. I've upgraded a whip. It no longer has the negative on it.
Oh, nice.
It just has the positive, and I don't know how I did it. It's just a thing that exists.
I find it so you can, if you've done a temple, you can like get the code and send it to a friend, and they can do the same temple. But I really kind of, I I really kind of want them to lean a little bit more into like a passing thing back and forth, or something like getting closer to like directly speedrunning your friends, and or even something closer to a multiplayer, because it feels so good. Like I like what they've got.
It's really, really tightly made. That movement, like the sliding, the whipping for going through the air, the amount of air control you have in jumps, like all of it feels so tight.
Yeah, and even if it was like a just thing where I go like, how about a mode that doesn't have an end and everyone like a daily that can't be beaten, so that when you start it up, it's filled with like you're just guaranteed of having like 40 ghosts around you. That would be rad. Stuff like that. Like I really, really like it, and it's really fun to play. And it's just one of those things that I get excited because I keep thinking about other things they could possibly use the same system for without necessarily changing things too much. Like, okay, multiplayer is a big different thing. Forget about that. But yeah, just like, hey, this is our weekly one. Let's all just compete and pass it between the three of us and lock everyone else out of it. And you could have a second go at it.
Private one.
Private one. Like, once it gets around everyone, like everyone gets a second turn or something. Now that you know it, or I just feel like it could be. They could exploit it even further, but as a release, it works. I really like the movement. I have some people find I weren't liking the whips, but I think they find great. They're really easy to use.
The only thing I've noticed that occasionally, because it does have a little marker showing if you're close enough to get the whip, and that's slightly off. So like you can technically whip before you see the marker for distance wise.
Oh, but that would be beneficial, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
like it's the
if you see the marker, you're guaranteed to get the whip.
The error is in your favor. Yeah.
It's kind of like the I've gotten the term for it, but the
fake ledge.
The fake ledge on games that cartoon cliff.
And just things like if you are falling a long distance, you roll before you hit the ground with the right timing, and you roll. It just means that
hit a roll button,
you keep
you don't
moving,
take damage.
you get that sort of Mirror's Edge feeling where you keep going. And actually, this is the thing that because you haven't played it, have you, James?
No.
So when I saw this concept, I assumed one hit dead. No.
Got hearts.
Okay. Can get hearts back. Can buy more hearts.
Some chapters do half a heart, some do one.
Yeah. So it's even if in Deadly Dungeon, fall down bottomless pit.
Yes.
Game over. Spawn back.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for a game that is obviously geared at being hardcore, surprisingly generous. I'm like, this is good, because I really felt like I love the concept, but I felt like I'm going to play this game and I'm just going to die 30 seconds into each level, and then I will put it away and never play it again. And I'm like, no, it is designed to let you get to a relative distance, even if you're not beating entire temples, you'll get down a couple of levels, no problem, and you'll get to see stuff. Which is always my problem with games that are geared for more hardcore. Is like, I'll get to read about things later. Maybe I'll watch a YouTube of someone that's good.
So it's basically a roguelike where you get a seed that you play once, and you seeing the ghosts of what other people with that seed have played.
Yes.
Okay.
And if you complete the seed is wiped.
The seed is
no one else ever gets to play it again.
It's done in a really, really interesting way. I don't know if you've noticed this, Paul, when it shows you the map every time of like the path you're taking through temple. What you notice is the way they show it is like concentric rings, and each ring is a path through, and it's the path you're on, but it shows you other ones. So what will happen is you'll be playing a temple, first floor, as it were, segmented into three parts. You'll do the first part, and then the second part, someone else's first part leads to the same second part you're in. So the number of ghosts can change as you get through the temple, because they're linked up. And then if you beat the temple, the path you took is what gets destroyed. So what I've noticed from a game dev perspective is whilst they have obviously a close to infinite number of things, because it's just seeded, however high an int can get pretty much. One seed is technically three separate seeds.
True.
And if you wipe out one of them, you're wiping out those three together, but one chunk of that is still in someone else's run. So they've actually created like infinitely more infinite runs.
Yeah. I hadn't actually thought about that.
It's an interesting little note, because the way the paths intertwine.
But James, here's the real clever thing. So you're of course in temples stealing relics. No. You're returning them to the god from which they were stolen from. That's how we got around that clever little one.
So it doesn't belong in a museum. The museum's putting them back.
You're stuck somewhere with the god.
In the Phantom Abyss.
And he's like, we've got to get out of this Phantom Abyss. Go find all my relics. and you got to go find all his relics. And there's a lot of pedestals to put relics on.
There are. And you know how easy it is to model and add an extra... You don't need to model it, I'm sorry. Just load in another pedestal item in there. Just extend the hall and here's 20 more. Oh, shit. Yeah. and they're actually the same relics as
Someone's
before.
getting close to all of them, but...
Yeah, we've put a new Destiny-style shader on top of the old ones. Okay, so yes, that's Phantom Abyss. It's very cool. Okay, so I guess I should talk about one of the other games I mentioned in the intro, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Okay, so this is the latest Ratchet and Clank game. It's very pretty. They've bothered ray tracing the reflections in the eyeballs.
For some reason.
Yes.
Why not? It's very cool. Them reflections.
Fantastic.
It is a wild technical achievement. They spent so much time on the graphics and the visuals and the way that it looks. It's just... The graphics are great. They've done so many nice looking things. It looks amazing.
You don't like it, do you?
I see this is where this is going.
Oh, no, okay. So, let's not go too far and say Paul didn't like this game. Paul played through this game, and Paul... No, I didn't platinum it. I'm like one trophy off platinuming, and I'm just like, maybe. I don't... But, and then I remembered I don't care. So I'm like, why would I bother platinuming it? I'd have to go back and spend... So, I have not played really much of the Ratchet and Clank series. I decided to play through all this basically for review, though, because I had it, and I'm like, okay, let's go. Have you guys played them at all?
Not the newer ones. I've played the early ones. I'm still mildly salty.
I think I played the Jax and Daxter.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I'm still
very
mildly
confused.
salty that Ratchet and Clank is the one that went on to have all the games and not Jak and Daxter.
So Ratchet and Clank is the dumbest shooter I've ever played.
Yeah.
You basically just hold fire until you're out of ammo and then change weapons. And there's a lot of weapons, although a lot of them sort of do the same thing as another one you have. And eventually, because you have so many weapons, you do spend more time in the weapon select wheel than you do shooting. And it's like, switch weapon. Okay, here we go. Keep going. Okay, and the combat is just like never hard, even when you turn it up. When you turn it up, they just get more health. Like, I'm just taking longer. I'll just leave it at normal.
Using more weapons.
I'll leave it at normal. Maybe I should turn it down to the easiest, where you literally can't die and then just stand in the middle of the room and use the wrench the whole time. Nothing wrong with that. I'm glad that that's included in the game, because one thing I discovered as I was watching my partner try to play games recently, that while I'm describing this as incredibly simple, this is incredibly simple for someone that is used to twin-stick control and has been playing games for 38... How old am I? 37 or 38?
37.
Yeah.
That's a lot of knowledge that you're bringing in.
A lot of muscle memory going on.
Yeah. Like, when I see... Like, the fact that I got a sniper rifle, just go shoot them in the head.
It's a quick scope. It's easy.
Yeah, this game, like, it literally slows down when you zoom in, and the heads are real big. Like, I'm not even good with the controller. I'm just... And then it's like, how do I turn around? I'm like, oh, right. I'm an elitist asshole. Okay, so if you're... And then it's just like, that was fine. And I actually just like, eventually I just turned my mind off. I'm just shooting stuff. And it looks real pretty. Later in the game, there is so much stuff happening at once. It's just like, how is this holding 60? This is insane. I don't understand how the wizards did this. They did a thing and it was like, well, there's 20 more enemies just came up there and frame it. And the bodies are still there of the old ones. They didn't spawn them out and it's all still ray traced. My eyeballs are just blasting away. But... And unfortunately, it's the early areas that really suffer from what I'm just about to talk about. This game is like the prettiest PS2 game ever. They have not improved when it comes to level design and things like invisible barrier for bounding boxes.
Still classic Ratchet and Clank.
And I do not get... Like, they have a box. It's a standard box that's at a height that you can jump onto. And I'm like, okay... There's one of those boxes over there and there's some platforms on the other side of it. I'll jump over that box. No, you can't jump over that one. It's got an invisible barrier that stops you doing it. But it is enough to let you slide off it off the edge of the world and then just fall down. I'm like, they probably should have used a different box. Maybe one that was taller than my jumping height. That would have made sense. There's... The second sort of main area has all these islands that you can go between. If you touch the water between them, you instantly die. And the spawn can sometimes be on the other side of the fucking map. And you're like, why? There's spawns closer. No, that's the one you're going to. And the map is like, it fills in as you go near it. So I get a little bit like, this is collectathon stuff. It's like, hey, you got to get these things on each level. I'm like, okay. And I get a little bit anal about that stuff. Go, oh, okay, well, this island over here is grayed out, so I better get onto it. And when you can't go up a hill around an island, there's just rocks there. But part of this island has had a green slope. That green slope's an invisible barrier. But why is there a green slope? I guess they got sick of the rocks. But the rocks were there for a gameplay reason, right? Yeah, but this time they decided to use a green slope. I'm like, what the... And then when I finally got onto the island, which I think I basically clipped into, there's nothing there. I'm like, why is it drawn on the map and why is it grayed out? And I later found out that all the things I wanted to collect in that level I had, because I couldn't get it until later when the story sent me back to that island. Then why did you fucking list them? And there's all those sorts of things to the game where I have not fallen through the world in a game so often as I have in this game. And I was like, oh, I guess... Like, most of the time it just respawns you back where you are, because the amount of time I got caught on geometry and just be like, it's like the game just goes like, edge case, 5 seconds, okay, respawn you. Like, at least they must have put the detection in because it happens so much. But I'm like, for a game that is so expensive, and so like spends so much money, it's just like it is not polished like at all. Like, so the concept of the game is you and your little robot friend. You accidentally open up sort of a break in dimensions and you get zapped to this other dimension. Now, with the title Rift Apart, I thought the concept was basically, so there's another Lombax in this other dimension that Clank gets shoved with. And you're like, okay, so you're in different dimensions and you can't... No, you're in this... You get transported to the same dimension. After 2 missions, you've both got spaceships. You could just meet up, but you don't. It's just like when you go to one planet, you're one of the Lombaxes, and when you go to another planet, you're the other one. Why? None. So part of the concept of Ratchet and Clank is, of course, you upgrade your guns as you use them. So what this effectively means is that you use a gun until it hits max power, and then you throw it away and never use it again because you've got to prioritize the other guns to get them up to max power. So then eventually everything's max power and you can use your favorite gun again.
You can just use your favorite gun. You are allowed to just use your favorite gun.
But the thing is that other guns will become your favorite guns once you've powered them up.
You've got to power everything up to max so you know which one's your favorite before you
there's
can use it.
There's this one that's a shield and everyone hated it. I'm like, I bet it doesn't suck. It doesn't. It's my favorite gun. So you got 2 characters. You got all these weapons and they're all upgraded and everything. So what's different between the 2 characters? Nothing. You got the exact same loadout, the exact same XP on everything. You unlock something on one, the other person's got it. And especially since a lot of the guns do the exact same thing as another gun, why not just split the arsenal? Like, have one that's set up one way or something. Like, make a different... Have any sort of difference between these 2 characters instead of making them exactly the same. Like, I don't know. Just... It's so much, like... unexploited, like everyone's like all the main characters are boring as shit. Who cares? And the side characters are all just that sort of standard sort of cartoon wacky, and they're fine. They all look amazing. And as I say, I played through the entire game, which is quite rare for me to do anyway. It held my attention with its prettiness and the weird stuff going on, and all the particle effects going, pss, 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 and all of it reflected in my eyeballs. Like, amazing. But yeah, I'm like, if this didn't look amazing,
it would be a shit game.
This is like just B tier, like middle of the road. It's like, because even as I say, I haven't played a lot of the Ratchet Clanks, but I believe one of the things people love is the wackiness of the guns. There's not very many wacky guns in this. They're mostly just like pistol, shotgun, machine gun, rocket launcher. Like, okay, there's a topiary fountain which you throw out a little sprinkler and it turns people into topiary.
That sounds great.
One of the first things you get, and it's one of the wackiest. That's it. It's just like, oh, okay. Lots of set pieces, which are mostly just like really cool cutscenes that you're like, wow, this is loading so fast off at the SSD. That's so much data coming at me right at once. But effectively, I'm still just like on a rail pushing left and right. So mechanically, it is just standard. And then just like, especially, I wish they took out the collecticon things for my brain. My brain was just like, I have to go over there. Oh, I've touched something I'm not supposed to touch. Okay, so there's that second area where I'm like, there's all those islands. You know how I said there's invisible walls everywhere? Sometimes there's not.
And you just clip through it?
No. So I'm going like, oh, so it's a swamp. I'm like, okay, So this is the whole area, and sometimes you get and there's like an actual barrier there, like a force field. Like, okay, so they've set up a force field around it. Fine, whatever. That's fine. That's not invisible. That's slightly opaque. And this is one area and you're like, oh, there's no force field here. There's just a swamp, and there's some islands over there. Like, I'll just go over and explore. Oh no, you just die eventually. They just say, "Oh no, you've gone too far." They don't even warn you; they just kill you.
Just death plane it,
and it's like it's a respawn. But it's like, why don't you just like if I've got like Star Fox, if you go out of the area, it just auto turns the ship around. We solved this thing 30 years ago.
Just invisible plane kills you. Job done.
Because I haven't played that much of it.
Yeah.
That does sound like there are a lot of hacks in there. They ran out of time and did what they needed to do.
It sounds like I need to go find speedruns of this game because
maybe
honestly, go watch a speedrun of the old Ratchet and Clank games, and it sounds like what you have experienced with this new one is the speedrun of the old ones.
This
like how broken it is. Yeah.
I've got a great clip. I need to upload it actually, which is just so you've all seen like where you fall through the rift and it shows you all these multiple dimensions and everything. It looks really cool. So when I restarted the game, because after you finish you can unlock a couple of weapons that are in the base game and I wanted to see them. So I'm like, okay, restart. I get up to the point that you fall through the rift for the first time. Well, fell into the rift space, but the next one never loaded. I just fell for infinity through space. SSD sort of let me down on that one, which I did find really, really weird because it's just like, wait, they just physically built this space that you move through and then you can miss the next rift. Like, it's kind of impressive that it was physically built, I guess, in some ways. But also just weird that it happened. Yeah. So yeah, like, as I say, if you like Ratchet and Clank, it is mindless fun that you can shoot some pretty things. And it is very child-friendly because you can turn off the ability to die. And if you just follow the story and you don't get caught up trying to get all the collectibles like Paul, it's fine. Like, getting a bunch of the collectibles is good because so you get pieces of armor, and if you get the whole set, you get a stat boost. But you don't have to put on the armor. Just like, oh, you got all that? Yeah, you get 5% against insects now or whatever.
That's cool.
Like, okay, that's cool. I can just dress how I think looks cool and not for some min-max reason.
Yeah. More games need that.
And whilst I say if it didn't look amazing, it would be shit. It looks fucking amazing.
But is it a good Ratchet and Clank game though?
Yeah, but you can't take my word on that because I've only
it sounds
dabbled
like a Ratchet and Clank game.
Yeah,
like,
I hear people
all the bits.
People that like the series I've spoken to think it's an okay one. It's not. I haven't heard anyone say it's their favorite. But they're not like this sucks or anything. I think it's like average.
It's an average Ratchet and Clank game.
Yeah. And I say that's just me speaking for other people because I've only dabbled in the other ones because I wasn't a PlayStation boy growing up. I've only really become that post the PS3 era and the fact that I have adult money now, so I don't have to choose. Looking forward to that play date. Yes. Anyway, so cool. Now, there is shitloads of things to talk about, because partly one of the things we missed was the Steam Summerfest, where I played so many impressive demos. I cut it down to like the ones that I really liked, and it's still a list of like 20 games there. But I'm not saying
you've got 10 minutes.
I'm not even going to talk about them. I'm talking about that we're not going to talk about them. That's it. I'm seeing if there's anything else that should really strike out. Now, we could talk about D&D Dark Alliance, Sam.
We could.
Do you want to talk about D&D Dark Alliance?
Oh, if Sam doesn't want to talk about D&D Dark Alliance, that's kind of the review right there.
Yeah. Sure is a game.
I had a friend that was like, oh, I've been playing it all day. It's great. I'm like, really?
Look, I've had fun with it, but it's not good.
See, okay, well, let's
we're going to talk about D&D.
We're going to talk about. Well, I've only played a little bit, and
it's on Game Pass, right?
It's on Game Pass. Yeah. So this is the new Dark Alliance game.
It's worth checking out.
And I loaded it up, and I liked it. I picked like the Barbarian because I kind of like a slower, heavier hitting character. Like, I quite liked I felt like the combat felt good to me. I liked the combo system. I'm like, this seems fundamentally great. I don't understand what people are complaining about. And they go like, but there's a multiplayer game, right? I should play it multiplayer. And
There's your mistake.
So the game's broken. Like, it's just fundamentally broken at the base level. And like the fact that enemies will just kind of like twitch all over the place and not react to things.
It took me and Elliot half an hour to be in a game together.
Yeah.
And then we had such terrible rubber banding that it was unplayable.
Yeah.
For a game that the combat system is built around having multiple people and doing combos as well.
So the
rubber band is bad.
So the original, that was same system multiplayer, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was local multiplayer.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it in this one because this one is behind the shoulder action game, not a top-down game.
It's like someone looked at Vermintide and went, we have a tenth of the budget, but we have this IP. Let's make it. And they did.
And so, I'll tell you about one of the confounding things that's so weird is that if you pick up loot during a mission, you don't get it till you get back to base. Like, it's a loot game. People like to pick up loot.
You don't know what it is till you get back to base.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It tells you you've picked up a rare helmet. And until you open the chest back at base to claim all your loot, you don't know what it was.
Yeah. I mean, have they played a loot game before? People don't like doing that. Do you remember?
I want to put that hat on right now.
Do you remember what happened with Anthem?
Put the hat on.
It killed the game, basically. You have to go back to change my loadout. Nah, you know what? Kill this game forever. And the other thing that I thought was just fundamentally a weird choice. Now, you care about the D&D universe, so you can tell me if I'm way off with this. The fact that you load up the game and go, like, here's 4 named characters.
Yep.
Now, they're well-known characters as far as I know.
All four of those are very, very, very well-known characters.
Now, even though they're very well-named characters, I believe the fantasy of D&D is I'm going to make my own shit.
Yep.
And it's just you just play these 4 prefab characters.
My argument against that is that one of those 4 characters is Drizzt. And if you get anyone who knows anything about the Forgotten Realms that hasn't played D&D, and you go, hey, you want to play D&D? The character they are 90% likely to make by themselves, their own character, is going to be a clone of Drizzt.
Was that my barbarian man?
No.
That's
the drow with dual wielding and the panther buddy. Like, yeah.
Look, I always make just like a very angry barbarian lady.
It is interesting to be in a situation where, like, I am still playing Baldur's Gate 3 on a weekly basis with my brother. We're on our
There's really enough in that game to do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I found out something new this week before the patch happened. And they've just released a patch of a whole bunch of quality of life. Yeah, we just keep replaying. We're doing like new character builds. We're trying out wacky shit. Like our last playthrough was like shove only strength builds, which is the easiest way to play the game.
You're doing it right. So.
Yeah, it's the easiest way to play the game. But like that very much is. Hey, I want to build a character. I want to try out this funky idea.
Yeah.
That's true D&D. To have something that is in the D&D IP that it makes me think of old D&D as opposed to what D&D has become.
Yeah, because I kind of imagine, and I obviously I'm just speculating here because I am not a D&D person, that I want those characters to be with me. Yeah, I want them to exist in the world.
I would find that game far more interesting if I could make a character, maybe like all the skills, all of that's the same thing as those 4 characters have, but you just make your own character.
Are they saying anything? Is it banter between?
There's some banter, not a lot.
It's pretty minor from what I know.
Can you at least
tell me a story in the D&D universe about these characters, but let me be my own?
Yeah.
Done. Have them be NPCs. It would be far better.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a swing and a miss on this. And the thing is, like, if they somehow fixed all the actual online issues, I think it would be a okay game.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that requires them to fix it and then everyone to notice and come back. I don't think there's too many people that stuck around.
Yeah. Well, I mean, being on Games Pass, maybe that gives them a bit of a buffer to fix it.
And it's not like we haven't had games that have resurrected themselves. Yeah. So
is there at least customization within the characters?
Yeah, so all the armor and weaponry you can get skins for, change how they look, and all that kind of thing.
But you're not going to like change the build or anything. It's like
no, like there's a talent tree and a skill tree, and they're really. I mean, I ran out of things to purchase skills wise because I had all the stuff to get them before I had the level to get the next ones.
Okay.
So like you can't really decide to go for a build; you just get everything.
Yeah.
So I just laughed at a completely different thing running in my head, which was I was going, I've been playing Barotrauma. Should I mention it? And then James will say, how's the mission gone? I'm like, it was fine. Until I walked into the nuclear reactor and someone was like, I'm just turning it up a little bit as it's on fire and then explodes. I'm like, that's the whole conversation in my head now. Done. And now
it's out loud.
I'm just like, It's all done. Finished. Okay. Yeah, so D&D Dark Alliance, swing and a miss.
But the swing was free, so
yeah,
you still
give it a shot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we could talk.
Combat's pretty fun.
We could talk some Marvel things, but we won't. I liked one of the new things. I didn't like the other new thing. There we go. But I feel, you know what? So Black Widow was the thing I didn't like much. I feel like maybe
did you not like it, or we just?
I just didn't care.
Just didn't care. Yeah,
I just didn't care. Yeah. And then there were things at the end where I'm like, even for a superhero movie, that seems a weird stretch of its logic, especially since this is based on the side of the superheroes, which is supposed to be the more inverted commas again, realistic style. Yeah, I do feel like I probably just am like really off that side of Marvel, because I've never like, whenever people are like, I love Civil War and Winter Soldier, I mean, you mean the dumb, boring ones? They're just like spy movies. I'm like, no, they're not. They just have less color.
Like spy movies.
It's like, have you seen a spy movie? Because they don't do that. Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like if a superhero thing is going to be gritty and realistic, I want super, and otherwise I want them to be something a bit swinging a bit wilder. Man, how good is super? What's his take that crime? What does he yell when he hits people with a hammer?
I can't remember. Yeah.
Anyway, good movie.
That's always with Dwight, isn't it?
Yeah.
In The Office, playing. That's
And Ellen
Sorry,
Page.
I was
Page now.
I was just slowly rebuilding what that movie was. That was a good movie.
Or Special. I'm the only person that knows and likes that movie, but it's a good movie. I think it was. It's been a long time. Okay, is there anything else you want to cover before we finish up? We're pretty close to James's deadline.
I feel like if I don't go, I feel bad because Cheryl's at home dealing with Roger.
That's all right. I understand. I'm not
Pause him here while his baby's out there somewhere. Like,
yeah.
If I could put Roger here, then he'd just be there.
I've got a cat at home. Like, I don't know what's happening there.
Okay. Started playing Severed on the Switch. Still a good game.
Yeah.
Started playing Headlander on the PS5 for some reason. Still a good game.
I got a multimeter the other day.
Yeah, I heard.
Yeah, I've been trying to mod a Fisher Price Game Boy into a real Game Boy.
For some reason, I always want to pronounce it multimeter.
That's good.
I've never taken like a circuit board before.
Yeah.
And taken a multimeter and tried to like figure it out.
Yeah.
And
What's
as a
going
little
on?
puzzle, it's actually pretty fun. You're like, okay,
Who needs games anymore?
Yeah,
Just
like-
get James Circus.
It's like, all right, the power comes in here, and it goes through the button down here, and it goes to this chip down here, and I'm putting the little things on it. And I'm like, oh, it's making the beepy noise.
I've got a job for you, James. I've got a Yamaha electric organ that turns on but doesn't make noise.
Well, let me see if I can figure out this Game Boy first.
I was like, I'm going to get this. I'm going to open it up and look at it. Okay, looking for anything that's broke. Fuck. Why isn't it just a capacitor that's exploded? I can do that.
Well,
so it's like it looks perfect. I'm like, oh, well, I'm screwed.
Yeah.
It needs a burn mark or something.
I was pleasantly surprised.
I've seen a trick for this.
Oh yeah.
If it's potentially something that's fused, like is overheating or short circuiting, you use something to like hypercool it.
The something
like,
is
really fucking cold compressed air or whatever, enough to get frost.
Yeah.
And then you turn it on. And you see which bit melts first.
If you because I bought a can of compressed air the other day. Yeah, it does. It freezes everything up.
It frosts it, right?
Yeah.
So you do that across the whole circuit, and then the second you turn it on, the short circuiting component will be the first thing to melt.
Yeah.
Right,
It'll show you the hot
because
spot.
I was going to throw it away because no one wanted it even for parts. But it's a perfectly
Sounds
fine
like James
organ.
wants it as a puzzle game.
Well, I was pleasantly surprised with this Game Boy toy circuit board is that it has the little spots for the soldering. So I can solder wires from what I was thinking of trying to hijack this thing onto a DS, but now I'm thinking, especially after watching this video on how like Atari controllers work and how the NES controller worked, which is actually, I don't know if you watched the video I shared in the Discord, but it was actually really cool how it works. It got me thinking what I should really do is hook this thing up to a Raspberry Pi where I can have pins that I can read inputs and write myself a little driver.
Make a tiny little emulator.
Yeah,
that
it's
looks
make
like
a little
child's toy.
Yeah, make basically a little emulator
Bright,
that
colourful
sits
child's
inside
toy.
a big
And then give that to your child.
That will be much easier, I think, than
You
me
don't
trying
need
to.
language learning games.
I think that'll be easier for me to do than hijack a DS. I think
Potentially.
Most likely, yeah. I feel like that'll be just difficult.
Yes,
to get.
where
into.
I think onto the piece of hardware which is deliberately designed to be hacked upon will be a much easier task.
Yeah. That's my general
Almost
experience.
certainly.
It's like I've had to repair a few things recently, and like phones are okay. They're kind of made, well, non-Apple ones are made to sort of be repaired. And then I'm like, I've been having trouble with like my headphones. I'm like, I've had one of these open before, and no, it's just like the amount of micro soldering I need. Like I don't know what I'm doing enough for this shit. I'll just throw them in the bin. So if they want to get stuff small, it's got to be small things. Okay,
a robot has to do it.
Exactly, and I'm not a robot. I have feelings, I've been told. Mm-hmm. Okay, I think that should end it for today. I'll talk about all my demos another time.
It should be a demo-only special show.
Yeah, well, hopefully some of these games will be out soon, and I'll be... the one I'm actually was sort of sold on... They have a demo out for Neo, The World Ends With You.
Oh, yeah.
So, whilst
That's out soon, isn't it?
Yeah, it's out real soon. And the demo just continue... Like, the save game will continue on the main game. I played it on the Switch. I'm like... This is weird and rad, and I don't really remember how the original played. I can't really remember if I played it much anyway because it was on the DS. But I'm doing very well, but I kind of still don't know what's going on with it. But I'm doing it on purpose, so I guess I must be understanding the systems. But then I'm like, hey, it's also on the PS5. Let's see what the performance difference is. You know what? Perfectly fine on the Switch.
Okay.
I'm like, if you're going to play it on a TV, get it on the PS5 because it'll be better resolution. But it looks pretty much the same on the Switch and runs just as well. Load time's slightly longer, but not that much different. Because most of the time the load times are covered up by visual novel stuff anyway. So, it's a weird Japanese visual novel that I'm not going to try to explain here. Because it's
very strange. It's a weird world. Weird. It's all in Akihabara,
with cool
isn't
music.
It? Well, at least I think the first one was all in
you're still
Akihabara,
on the strip around there. So if you're into a weird action-based RPG, check it out. It's free, and the game will... The only thing is, like, sometimes I forget that these games are still full-priced, like, full-price games, not like Switch games. Like, this game's like $80-$90. I'm like, I guess they're not PS5 level games, though. Woo!
They are, I haven't bought too many PS5 games. They are not cheap.
No. And they're $10 more expensive. Okay. That brings us to the end, I think. Thank you for watching and listening to 8.5bit. You can go to our website, 8.5bit.com, our Twitter, Facebook. Please like, share, anything like that. Subscribe to us on whatever the hell you want. I've been Paul.
I've been James.
I've been Sam.
Catch you later, folks.
Thanks, everyone.